Hi, and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Sean.
Chris.
Lee.
Different team to last week.
Yes.
Did I miss anything last week, by the way?
Dan's saying he was off to ride 100 miles.
How was the German Grand Prix okay? Did I miss much there?
It was... it's
All right.
There wasn't,
ancient
there wasn't
history,
that much. I mean, hardly anyone finished. So
Right.
Wet.
That was last week.
Yeah, but it was a bit...
And now all history.
Yeah, it was a bit fucking amazing.
Oh, okay.
Tell you what, why don't you listen to last week's podcast where we talk about it?
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Actually, don't. We talked about you.
I'll do that.
How was your secret mission at Spy HQ?
It was fine. I wasn't that far away from the Red Bull factory whilst the race was actually going on.
Oh, right.
I did get to see the race, but just thought I'd be comical and ask if I'd missed anything.
Although you did see something F1 related while you were in the middle of Milton Keynes.
Sort of, yeah. So a lot of people in Red Bull t-shirts, and I thought, wow, these people are loyal to their hometown Formula One team. And then I thought maybe these are people. This was on the Saturday, and then I thought maybe these are people who are actually picking up shopping after being at the factory.
yeah.
Because it was only when I looked at the maps I was like, oh fuck, I'm only like half a mile away. Well, about a mile and a half away from the factory. So it's totally reasonable to suspect that they were driving home. Well, let's just hop off in this retail park and get some shopping.
Should have saw if they all had Hondas.
Or in Milton Keynes terms, not a mile and a half, 4 shopping centres.
Yeah. 7 roundabouts, 3 dual carriageways.
And a partridge.
Alan Partridge would fit right in.
Yeah, before we get going tonight, just want to say congratulations to Dan for his Ride London 100 miles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
8 hours and a bit.
8 hours, 20 minutes
About 8
ish.
hours, 20 minutes or so. Which is a damn sight quicker than any of us could do
Yeah,
it.
well done, Dan. I mean, the man is made of different stuff to the rest of us. He's a special character, is Dan. So well done for that.
Yeah. Just want to give a massive shout out as well to Adam Cusick, who
Absolutely.
a member of his family was in sort of grave danger with illness recently, and basically he's donated a kidney.
Yeah. So lifesaver.
Lifesaver, actual literal lifesaver. Adam, you are the man officially. Yeah. We may have taken the piss out of you on the show before
For money.
but you were a patron and you asked us to do it, and your family and friends asked us to do it, so that's the only reason we did it.
I do hope they needed a kidney and he wasn't just really generous.
No, I don't think there's somebody walking around with 3 kidneys. Do you know what I mean?
No, technically that's how they do transplants.
Yeah, they don't take it out, do they?
No, they just patch it to the other one. So somebody is walking around with 3 kidneys, it's just that only one of them's working.
Do you have to use patch leads to...
Shall we talk about the Hungarian Grand Prix?
Please.
Our 4th non-dull race.
See, I'm still in the camp where I'm not saying every single race has been a classic, but I still think the only bad race this year, or exceptionally bad race, was France.
France.
We're
was
having a
terrible.
run of pretty good races.
We've
And
had
differently good.
we've
Yeah.
had some good races, but we've just had some standard Grand Prix. You know, that's like Australia, for instance, was a standard Grand Prix, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't too exciting from
No.
what I remember, but...
But it wasn't France.
No.
I mean, France has made the last 4 races look better.
I don't think it has. I think we've just had 4 really good
Yeah, it's just
races,
the
and as
way
Sean
it's
said
fallen.
then, it's just for different reasons
Yeah.
that they've been really good. I don't know if you got round to relaying my message, but I don't think it was racing that made the German Grand Prix great. I just think it was the fact that it was so incident laden. There wasn't any fantastic racing going on as such, but we definitely got that in Hungary.
Does anybody else feel mildly cheated by the fact that Red Bull haven't been able to get it together till like the last couple of races?
I
If
don't
they've
feel
done this from
cheated
the word
by-
go,
No, I don't feel cheated by Red Bull because they started the year with a new engine manufacturer.
And a
who
new
I feel
driver.
cheated. I feel cheated, but yeah, and a shit driver. who I feel cheated by is Ferrari.
Yeah.
Because we
So
were
much
promised.
promise.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I will get to them an awful lot later on.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got some half-term reports to do as well. Half-term
Yeah.
gradings.
I think we need to do it, and of course, if this was based on the Winter Championship, Ferrari would be getting an A+.
Yeah,
However, it's not.
true.
Let's start with Haas, because they had the only DNF, which was Roman Grosjean.
Was that for components?
Water
Yes.
pressure.
Right.
Yeah,
That was the official line, wasn't it?
Yes.
Water pressure
his
issues.
sous vide was playing up.
He's crying.
That's what I said. Yeah, I said that. I said, I said,
Water
is he
pressure as well.
crying?
It could mean you need a wee.
Yeah, that's a
Indeed.
water pressure. isn't
No,
it?
Personal water pressure.
He's French. Does that mean he needed a yes?
Maybe.
Maybe to his contract next year, and that's not what he's getting.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
He himself has been better, hasn't he? The last couple of races, his pace is there.
Since they gave him the Australian car back, which
Yeah.
he's been asking for ages.
And Sky seem to think that, Paul di Resta, rather, from Sky, seems to think that Haas will revert both cars to the Australian spec after the summer break.
And if you could argue that he's saved the team, if they've gone a wrong way with development.
Because
And he's been saying this is the way to
Yeah.
go.
the operating window to get that car working, they can get it working for one lap in qualifying. They can't get it working during the race.
Yeah. See, again, because the Hungarian Grand Prix, I didn't like the way Max was racing with Daniel Ricciardo. I think it was overly aggressive. I think when he tried to go around the outside of him on turn 3, I think he gave
Kevin.
Kevin.
He gave
Max.
he gave Daniel Ricciardo the option to either have an accident with him or to go off the circuit, and it's not on. I don't mind hard racing, and I don't mind wheel banging and stuff like that. Like, you know, like I say,
Austria.
Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen was proper borderline of where it should be.
Yeah.
But I don't like drivers that other drivers are worried to overtake because they know by trying to overtake them, they're risking an accident just by trying to overtake them.
Yeah,
I think that's Magnussen all over.
it is. But then he's gained a reputation for being notoriously difficult to overtake. And is that a terrible thing if he's your driver?
It is when you're borderline breaking the rules. Like
Unlike Grosjean, who's got a reputation of being notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm done there.
I've got to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, I know we're going to do silly season later. I think one driver will be out of contract
I
at
think
Haas,
one driver.
and I think it's going to be
least
Grosjean, because I think his time has come and gone. It's been 10 years
I
nearly
think.
in the sport.
I think that decision will be made over the course of the year. Almost, I think if they're going to revert to the Australia spec again car, I think that'll be dependent on which one of them performs better over the second half of the season.
It's gonna be Grosjean saving his career in the second half of the season again, though, isn't it? Because I mean, this time last year we were talking about when and not if they get rid of him after he had the nightmare start to 2018.
Yeah.
All right, 2019 he's done slightly better because he's got points before the summer break.
He
And I
got
think-
points just before the
And I
summer
think it
break
took
last
until
year.
Hungary to get points.
It
last
was
year,
Austria.
didn't it? Was
He
it
got
Austria?
fourth. They got like 4th and 5th in Austria. It was a bit of a weird race, I think.
And he at least managed to score before then this time round. But he's just been crap for other reasons.
I say though, if you take Stroll out of the equation, because Stroll's kind of a special case, because I don't think he should be a Formula One driver anyway.
No,
probably.
he's Daddy's special soldier.
He's Daddy's special soldier. Whereas Kevin Magnussen,
Do they have an army in Canada? Daddy's special Mountie.
unbelievably polite.
They have an air force.
Yeah.
No, it's an air persuade. That was your joke, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
It's quite good.
But whereas Kevin Magnussen and Grosjean obviously deserve their go in Formula One, but I think if you take Stroll out of the equation, they're probably the two weakest drivers on the grid. And it's just unfortunate they're in the same team, which appears to be the weakest team as a whole on the grid. You know, if you were to star everything, I know that Williams is behind them on pace.
In terms of going backwards from qualifying to race,
It's crazy.
Nobody does it more than Haas. Haas get cars into Q3 like Grosjean in Hungary. You know,
Magnussen was
Cars-
fourth in Q1.
yeah. But you know, in Q3, you could have had both Haas's. You know,
Yeah.
where the McLarens were 7th, 8th. You know, best of the rest.
They don't know what's going on with that car.
No, that's
idea.
the thing. And but when it comes to the races, they're always right near the back. There have been a few cases, Canada for example, where you know the Williams got in amongst the Haas.
Yeah.
So it's been a disappointing first half of the season.
Is this because of the way they work? Because every other team builds the car, designs everything from the ground up. Haas buy it in kit form.
I think it's something to do with it. I think it's more to do with the fact that you've got less I would imagine because they're getting the chassis off them off Dallara, they've got less wind tunnel action going on and less data to draw on when it comes to the tyres. Because I think it's all tyre dependent.
They've said it's very much tyres. Yeah.
But we got to remember Ferrari struggle with tyres as well, and they are quite closely linked.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever problems Ferrari are going to have are just going to be magnified like insurmountably by the other team. Yeah.
I think another issue they've got is not last year, the year before, they stopped work on the car very early to focus on what ended up being last year's car. Mm-hmm. So they put a lot of time into that, and then we're obviously in that very close battle last year with Renault in the Constructors' Championship, so probably ended up developing quite a lot later and have got to this year's car a bit late, and it doesn't work.
It's what I predicted would happen with Force India, isn't it? Force India were in that battle, and they were right up there and just took their eye off the ball for the next season. If it can happen to McLaren and Ferrari after 2008, it can happen to anybody.
Totally. Yeah.
So, what do we think is their half-term report? I'm going for D.
D to E for me, I think.
A D for Haas, because
I think
it's not.
If anyone deserves an F, it's Haas, because they haven't progressed. They've gone backwards.
Yeah.
They don't know why they've gone backwards.
And the driver lineup is not progressive either.
Realistically, I think both drivers should be replaced. That's when I'm defending Grosjean. I still think his time in Formula One's come, but I just think I think Grosjean is the faster Formula One driver out of the two when all things click into gear that day. And I think they're both crashy. So
I think they're
but
both.
we've said this before about Grosjean. Ever since we started doing this show, when Grosjean's fast, he's crashier.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both rubbish. Look what happened in Germany. Grosjean just drove into Magnussen and then said, "What is he doing?"
I still don't think that's all
doing
Grosjean's fault. I still don't think it's all Grosjean's fault.
Magnussen had his car on the track in Grosjean's
What, in Germany?
way.
Yeah, because
the German one was entirely Grosjean's fault.
Think about it, because 2 laps beforehand, Magnussen was told to allow Grosjean to go past. So he'd let Grosjean pass.
That's not a reason to punt him out the way.
No.
Magnussen was still there, though. He didn't come up the inside of him.
No, but I don't think he was looking, because if his teammate's already behind him, who's just let him through, why would you think your teammate's going to dive bomb you after?
Well, that's what I mean. He wasn't.
Because he's Grosjean. He's crazy.
He didn't come flying up from behind or anything.
It was the thing, but you wouldn't. You'd just be turning in as normal. If your teammates already let you through 2 laps ago, you wouldn't expect them to overtake you. Especially not there, because if you're on different strategies, he probably can do, but it's all going to be DRS.
I don't think it was as much of a surprise as Grosjean. Magnussen was quite clearly there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't expect him to be going to do it. I think
it could have been anyone else. Another car could have got between them.
But he knows Magnussen's behind him, and he's just been let through. I don't think you're expecting your teammate to pass you, because if he had... It was something like they were either on different tyres or he had fresher tyres, so he was told to go through. So the only reason Magnussen was going to be able to overtake him anyway is because of the DRS down there. Even if he got in the front of him, it would have been back to the same situation with Grosjean burning his tyres up behind him. So you just wouldn't expect it. I think it was a stupid move from Grosjean, but it was a bad move from Kevin Magnussen.
Perhaps, when you put it that way.
I don't think either of them came out of it well, to be fair.
No.
What, the Formula One?
That specific incident, but yeah.
I think round the table then we have
wider.
giving them an E.
I think it kind of averages out at an E.
Can we make it an E minus?
No, not quite. E for now.
Okay.
E minus would be, E I think is fair. Because that it's very important.
No, it's A to E minus and then an F for just forget it.
Williams,
they're not far from an E minus. Williams, George Russell 16th, Robert Kubica 19th. George Russell damn nearly through to Q2.
Yeah, I tell you what,
these updates work for George Russell, don't they?
Yeah, if they'd have sent him out later, he'd have got into Q2.
He was one of the first, wasn't he? Yeah. I think he was one of the first to do his last lap.
I think, unfortunately, they didn't take into account the pace he would have. I think they thought they'd be better off getting him out on a clear track to get his lap in, where if they'd have known just how quick he was going to be, they'd have probably tried to lean more into like the lap evolution.
And in all honesty, for Williams, when you look at the next few races, there's not an awful lot of races where those upgrades are going to have as much of an effect. I mean, they are promising more updates to the car.
There's always bits come on Spa, isn't there? I know there's a summer break, but there's always bits come.
Yeah. So, I mean...
I think Williams have basically said there's now going to be updates on the car till...
constant, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think till the end of the year.
So, I mean, in a way, you kind of want to get what I kind of want to give Williams most improved team, because they were 2-3 laps down in Australia, and they were consistently 2-3 laps down for the first few races. Then it was kind of a lap down, when they bought their Spain upgrade or whatever it was. And now they're trying to mix it with the midfield. Kubica is still off the pace, but we know that's Robert Kubica.
It's almost it's boring now knocking Robert Kubica because it's.
And George Russell did say that's all the car has. Maybe, as you say, maybe if you sent him out later and the track had evolved a bit better, he might go through to Q2.
Don't forget, Danny Rick and Perez, their final laps in Q1, they shagged it up for each other.
Yeah.
And that probably put George Russell
artificially
higher on the grid than he would have been, but he was still only...
He's still 1.3 seconds faster than Kubica in qualifying.
And it was only 1500s off getting into Q2, so he was still almost quick enough to be top 15.
Yeah.
Even if he'd have finished 18th, he would,
Yeah.
Just quickly, I think you'll see those updates maybe working in Spa, because thinking about it, the closest they've been to the rest of the teams was one of the most chassis dependent circuits on the grid. So I mean, that's got to be a really good sign.
Yeah,
they've got a good lump in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Don't forget they've been fastest through the speed traps at about 3 different races this season.
Yeah, you've got big long straights and such at Spa.
Yeah. If they've got the aero and the downforce sorted out a lot more, and obviously Hungary, I think, with what George Russell certainly did, proves the downforce is coming.
Yeah, maybe they'll be on par with like Force India,
Racing Point.
Racing Point.
It's all right, we're only halfway through the season that they've been called. It's only been a year since they changed their name.
God, imagine if they change it again next year. We're going to be fucked.
I think it'll be changed next year.
Yeah, because we thought that was going to happen this year.
Can we just call them the Pink Team and make it a lot easier?
Yeah.
The Pink Thing.
Joke for the Patreons.
Is it primed?
I possibly.
No, it's Netflix. You'll get to see it on.
Got you right.
Ooh.
Come on, that wasn't all that bad. I'm with you on Williams being probably the most improved team because
they have developed well.
I mean, all right, there were two laps down, but it was an incredibly short circuit.
It's been here between them and Red Bull who's made the best improvements through the season.
Definite positive signs, and let's just hope they've got something in reserve for next year.
Yes. Well, if the rules are going to be static, I suppose any work they do, like Dan was saying last week, will be move
well, they will
forward.
for next year at least. And possibly for years afterwards, which we'll get onto.
We'll talk about the new rules in 2023. So, what do we reckon for a half-term grade for Williams?
I would give them an E, but for the fact they've improved so well, I want to say D-.
I was
agree.
thinking the D- neck of the woods, but possibly more like a C+ for effort, maybe, if they're giving an effort grade.
No, hang on.
separately.
We're not including effort.
You can't include effort. You could only...
Attainment only.
Yeah.
I'll go D+.
Yeah.
I'll go D-, because there would be an E if it was not for recent upgrades starting to work.
Trajectory is good.
Yeah. I'm gonna say a straight D.
Straight D sounds good.
Yeah. And I think that's what it averages out as
that
well.
sounds fair.
So a D for Williams. Right, next we have the Pink Thing.
The Panthers with blue stripes.
They're having a strange old season, aren't they?
We thought that Lance Stroll was starting to remember how to qualify in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And he remembered how to race in Germany, as in, I know how to not leave the track when everyone else is.
Got a good tyre call, which probably wasn't necessarily on him, but
he kept it on the great
he
stuff.
made it work.
I must say, while we're doing this, we are forgetting to review the race, but carry on.
Yeah, a little bit, but
Well, we talked a little bit about what Haas have done and about what Williams have done.
Yeah.
We're at the boring end of the grid at the minute, aren't we?
There
Let's be
wasn't a
honest.
great deal of action
not
going on
really.
from.
Do you
either of
remember
those
seeing
teams.
Lance Stroll at all during
No.
Hungarian Grand Prix?
It's a fair point.
I think we saw him got passed a couple of times.
I
didn't we?
think somebody was interviewing him between the national anthem and the formation lap when he was going for the pee break, and that was about it.
but he's looking more wolf than teen.
But having another qualifying nightmare in Hungary,
Mm-hmm.
where it's nigh on impossible to overtake. His race was over Saturday afternoon.
Not impossible for him to overtake.
Yeah, I didn't think Hungary was a particularly difficult to overtake track.
There's
I
a
thought it
couple of
was-
good spots
yeah.
to do
It's
it.
known as Monaco without the walls.
It's,
Okay.
I've always sort of been a tricky place to overtake. To be fair, I think that's why, when we talk later on, that's why Max could hold Lewis off.
But yeah, I mean, Lance Stroll completely anonymous during the race as well. Like I said, I don't remember seeing.
No, I couldn't tell
anything
you
about him.
anything about his race.
And Perez, I'm still surprised with him finishing 11th because he had a bad qualifying as
Yeah.
well. Got into that tussle with Danny Ricciardo on the last corner at the end of Q1,
Which made Danny Ricciardo very angry.
and made Perez very angry and said Danny Ricciardo was disrespectful. Apparently, that's a major shade throwing.
Must be.
It is part of the world. Rescued it up to 11th. Was in the points at one point. I think Albon overtook him quite late on.
Albon overtook him quite late on, and they did collide slightly, and Racing Point are not happy about it, but stewards looked at it and
Said it was
was
fine.
like, no, it's fine. But no, Otmar Schnafsauer, no, I can never say his name.
Gary Schnauzer.
Yeah, that's the one. He reckons Perez was damaged because of the Albon thing. And
I think Perez was damaged after
Perez
the year
was
at McLaren.
damaged. But yeah, apparently his car had damage, so he couldn't fight back.
That would be a fair point to make, but how much damage? We're talking like severe floor damage.
Rear wing, I think it was.
Right, got you.
Not a good weekend for rear wings.
Not really. No, not a good week for some of the mid-grid teams, to be fair.
Although Perez did okay, because if you think about it, just missing out on the points by one place. Whether or not he was damaged in the overtake that Albon did, can you honestly say that Perez would have been able to fight back and take the place back? Probably not.
Yeah.
That Racing Point is not the Force India that we became used to. That
No.
By this time of the season, after a difficult start, would be consistently best of the rest.
They've got a lot of ground to make up in the second half of the season, which that's usually their strongest time of year.
It's usually before that, but usually around about now we see them
this is
becoming
the
like
time.
the best of the. Unless they were Ocon and Perez, and they just decided to just crash into each other all the time.
Well, yes.
But at least they were usually like 6th or 7th when they started doing that kind of shit.
Yeah, like taking out a double points finish rather than just taking out a double finish.
Yeah.
What do we say from?
D-, maybe even an E.
Yeah.
I think you're another E.
Yeah, they're definitely they're backwards. They're
It's the first year of
inconsistent as well. I think
Yeah.
it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen with them.
It's in their defence slightly. It's their first half of the season as Racing Point proper.
Yeah.
Given that they probably stopped developing this year's car because of the financial
When
troubles
people
with
stopped
Force
getting
India.
paid.
Yeah. When people stopped getting paid, and they're another team that are promising a shed load of updates from Spa onwards. So it's been a disappointing first half of the season, but they are still quite new to this game.
Don't forget, they had basically a whole new back end on that car in Germany.
Yeah.
And it's done absolutely nothing for them.
Well, Stroll led the race in Germany for half a lap.
Yeah, again,
in
strategy.
weird conditions,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
In Hungary, yeah.
I mean, the one positive is Perez starting from, I want to say 17th,
I think he was 17th, yeah.
and actually getting it up into the points after every pit stop had been made.
Yeah.
That
Good strategy, but I mean, it was
that
hard on
shows
the
that things can be done.
was hard on the tyres, wasn't it?
Yeah,
in
that's
Hungary because of the
Perez
heat.
doing tyre stuff.
Yeah, that could have been to Perez. Manage your tyres, manage your tyres, manage your tyres. Oh, look, we've made 7 places.
Yeah. Helped out by 2 Hasses as well that constantly go backwards.
There is that. We've discussed that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, passing a Haas isn't an overtake. It's
No.
just it's lapping somebody when you're on the same lap as them.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, D- for me, I think.
D.
I'll go D.
I think D as well. So a D all
A
round.
D then.
Give them the D.
So the season ratings so far are actually matching the team ratings from Hungary.
Yeah.
Although I think there's going to be a little bit of plummeting here because it's Renault next.
No.
How many times this season have we said that was a weekend to forget for Renault?
Yeah.
I think
Quite
it's-
often, yeah.
yeah.
And this was
Again,
another one.
Aside from Ricardo tripping over Magnussen, I don't remember much about their race.
Well, obviously we've touched on Ricardo's mistake. You know, whether it was his mistake or whether it was Perez's mistake, where they ended up tripping over each other at the end of the warm-up lap for the qualifying.
Yeah.
Ruined both their qualifying. Ricardo started 18th.
Well, I think
Now-
Ricardo
Well, he started
blamed
at the
the
back,
team
did
for
he
putting him
not?
out, didn't he?
He said he wanted to kill someone on team radio. But the Ricardo in a Red Bull would have still made it up top 10.
Well into the point.
Yeah. Well into the top, well up into the top 10. Ricardo in a Renault is just not able to. And
He's gone from the honey badger to the slightly annoyed ferret.
But don't, I think the
Yeah,
thing to
he's-
show how bad that car is, though, because he was only 2 places behind Hulkenberg,
Yes. 12 and 14th?
Yeah,
think
they
so.
were. Yeah.
You know.
Hulkenberg 12th, Ricardo 14th.
and so Hulkenberg didn't have any crazy dramas. I don't
No?
think.
No,
Just went backwards.
roughly stayed where he was, and Hulkenberg just missed out
I
on
think
Q3,
He was 11th, I think he
Yeah.
started.
so went backwards 1 place.
Yeah.
And Ricardo sort of made up a bit of ground.
Made
Yeah,
up
they've just kind of
the-
merged into each other, haven't
Ricardo was the only driver who started on hard tyres, and
Yeah.
he didn't pit until very, very late on. So,
Mm.
you know, difficult to tell sort of what kind of pace. But Renault, for me, have been probably the second most disappointing team of the first half of the season.
I think this is the worst season for Renault in the modern era, and
Mm.
I'm including IGN Renault or ING Renault in
Yeah.
that as well. You know, it's
Crashgate Renault.
back that far and into Alonso at
Well,
times.
Alonso
yeah.
won races that year. Without Crashgate, he still won another race.
Yeah, don't forget there was also a year of that livery which had Kovalainen and Grosjean in the car.
Yes.
I mean, they're behind Toro Rosso in the constructor standings at the moment. They're
Deservedly so.
and that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's a Honda, the second team with the Honda, which everyone was so like, oh, it's a Honda. So yeah, and that's meant to be
we
a
made a joke
manufacturer
the last few
team.
weeks that Renault are consistently at least the second best Renault-powered team on the grid.
But it's not a joke, it's reality.
That's factually accurate.
Number 2 in a field of 2.
The crazy thing is as well is you had Ricardo saying that they had to have like a team meeting like on Saturday. He said where in his words said like we sort of cleared the air with each other. So there's obviously been a big
there's bad air.
fallout behind the scenes.
Thing is, Holt's got his head down, hasn't he? I mean, not head down as in he's working hard. He's like his
Head's
head is
dropped.
dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like a man that knows he's not going to be in a team that team
Yeah,
next
I think
year.
he's been told.
Yeah, I think he's been told.
I think he's been
I
told.
think
Look,
he'll do great things in the Haas next year.
you are he might be empowered essentially. You are the 5th choice for this seat because there are 4 other drivers ahead of you that we want instead of you.
He also doesn't deserve it.
Hulkenberg.
Yeah. I see. The thing is, I don't think you can blame either of the drivers for this.
I don't know, but his performance is when there are places to pick up, Hulkenberg usually picks them up. But the
But he
car
did
is
crash Germany, yeah.
yeah, the car isn't up to it.
No, I think you can see. Like, let's not forget we had the eyes of Daniel Ricciardo as potential world champion last year. You know, that driver hasn't disappeared. That
No.
driver is still there. That guy that could give like Verstappen a reasonable run for his money.
The guy who would lick it and send it, where's
Yeah,
he
yeah.
gone?
Yeah.
Where's he gone?
No, he's still there, but that car is a dog.
I think that's it as well. He probably doesn't trust the car to be
Yeah.
putting in that kind of manoeuvre.
I mean, he said he wasn't really comfortable with it for the first 3 races of the
Australia.
season.
Yeah, he said it in Australia that he didn't know where the brakes were on it.
he didn't know where the grids were
I think
either,
he's
did he?
destroyed his Formula One career.
I don't know that he's destroyed it. I think this is the bridging years for Danny Rick before he goes elsewhere. I think he's got his eye on a seat at Ferrari or Mercedes.
Yeah, but the thing is, those seats might be coming available already this year, and the problem he's going to have is if you can't display what you can do, then you're instantly off the shopping lists all of a sudden.
Yeah, you've got to be putting in extraordinary performances in an unextraordinary car.
Or just like what he was doing in Red Bull. He would have been better off, even if he knew Red Bull were favouring Verstappen.
Yeah.
He'd have been better off staying in Red Bull, making a song and dance about the fact that he's not getting a fair crack of the whip, but making sure he's as close to Verstappen as he can possibly be. Just being a really good Webber,
He would. If Ricciardo was still at Red Bull, they would be second in the championship right now.
If Ricciardo was still in Red Bull, Max Verstappen would have won the Hungarian Grand Prix. Because he would have been second, probably, second or third, and they wouldn't have had the free pit stop.
Possibly.
Could
Mm.
well have been.
Yeah.
And as we know, Red Bull can only win a Hungarian Grand Prix with an Australian in the car.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do we give Renault for a season grade? I'm going right to the bottom. I am going F for a failure.
But given that this was the season they were going to score podiums and wins,
Yeah. They've spent big.
It's year 2 of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
The first year was challenge for podiums. Second year was wins. Third year challenge for championships. This is the challenge for wins year.
They can't be an F because they've really dropped back a bit at the moment. But let's not forget, it was only a few weeks ago where they were best of the rest.
But overall, they are
in
failing.
France.
Overall, they are failing under their.
It was
own
in
standards.
France, wasn't it, where they were the best of the rest?
Yeah. No, but I'm just
a race
saying,
where nothing happened.
No, it would suggest they were F if they'd been here all season long.
Yeah.
But they haven't been here.
They
all
just
season
dropped
long.
back.
That almost makes it worse, though. They're capable of being best of the rest. They just, for some reason, can't do it.
Would you rather? When you look at the other teams we've graded, would you rather be in a Renault or would you rather be in a Racing Point, a Williams, or a Haas? I would still rather be in the Renault. So
I'd still give them, I think, a D.
I think D+. Not F.
I think I was leaning towards E. We've all gone very different.
I have.
I think that averages out around about D-.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
everyone's getting the D.
D minus.
Well, we gave the D to the pink thing, which apparently is primed.
Worst rap track ever.
Yeah.
I'm so happy there isn't a brown car.
Haas, you know your job. Find a sponsor.
Brown Energy.
Yeah, maybe. Brown Sound.
Alfa Romeo next.
Binary result.
Oddly binary compared to the rest of
Very
the grid.
binary. I mean, Kimi, Q3.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Giovinazzi, wrong again.
Yeah.
Do you think he's done enough to keep his seat this year?
No.
Yes.
Giovinazzi?
Yeah.
Done enough to keep a seat at
The
Alpha.
last few races he
I
had
don't
been
think so.
looking better, and then this race happened, and
Point in Austria.
yeah.
Nowhere really in Britain, I don't think.
Can't actually remember.
Do you know what it depends on? It depends on when Kimi was in Ferrari. He was never exceptional in Ferrari. He only ever put that car just about where it could go.
Yeah.
And Vettel pushed it a little bit further than what he could do. So because Giovinazzi's been so shit, we think Kimi's being exceptional.
Been amazing.
Yeah.
He's doing a very important job
but
for Kimi.
But what if that car is where Kimi's put it?
I think it might be.
Yeah.
It's roughly around about where the McLarens are.
Yeah, so
roughly.
if it is
Oh,
there...
yes, I remember where he was at Silverstone. He was in the gravel.
Yes, correct.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, he brought the safety car out.
He did.
Yeah.
Giovinazzi
He
in
made the race.
yes, in the gravel, and then Germany. So much happened. I don't remember seeing any of the
penalty.
Alphas.
He got penalty.
He got penalised in Germany.
He and Raikkonen both got the penalty.
That's right. Yeah,
They were in the
finished with
points, and then they're not in the points, and now there's a whole argument.
Yeah. So no second haircut for Giovinazzi.
Which the appeal is still ongoing for.
Yeah.
Although this weekend, I mean, Kimi drove the hell out of that.
I think the team, if we take Giovinazzi out of it for a second and look at the team, look at Kimi, deserves a C+.
Maybe, yeah, because they've
Or a straight
they were Sauber and now they're Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
Things are a lot better. It was an upward trend that started last year when they were Sauber Alpha, and now that they're Alpha, then things have just progressed that step further forward. Charles Leclerc was getting 7th places here and there, wasn't he, in the Sauber last year? But don't forget as well, Hungary is a very good circuit for Kimi Räikkönen.
Yes.
Everybody keeps going on about Hamilton's number of wins, it's the same amount as Schumacher and Senna combined. But the nobody has got as many podiums at Hungary as Kimi Räikkönen. He's got 9 podiums.
And he did a good job this weekend because, he held Bottas off for the last few laps.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cruised
absolutely.
past Gasly at the start as well, like it was nothing.
Well,
Okay, it's Gasly, but it's still the car, the same car.
it's an
that was
Alfa
in the front
Romeo.
of the
Essentially,
race.
this time last year or even 2 years ago, how much would we have laughed at? Like, a Sauber just cruised past a Red Bull at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, I think there's definite driver issues here.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
I don't
I'm
think
nodding
that-
in huge
This
agreement
this
over
isn't
here.
a straight car to car comparison.
No, no.
But no, Kimi did a top job this weekend.
Yeah.
Uh,
He's had a top season,
Yeah.
but I do just wonder whether he's doing a Kimi job in that car and there's actually another half a second in it.
Which we won't know because Giovinazzi's not up to the job,
No, he's not.
and I don't think he's done enough to keep his seat for next year at the moment.
I think he has because I don't think Ferrari have got anybody else to put in there.
I think that depends how Mickey does it the rest of the season. He's had his first win.
He's not high enough up.
He's still got to finish 6th to get the points.
I think with Schumacher's name, he could get the points today if he needed them.
What, by bidding higher than anyone else?
Yeah, I think that point system appears to have turned
Slipping Jean Todt a brown envelope.
but I think that point system now has turned into a thing to stop people that aren't suitable for Formula One, but anyone that is clearly suitable but hasn't got the points.
yeah,
will be
like
just-
Ranganathan, for
yeah,
example.
the door will be opened up because it's a flawed system. The points, so they need a buy through
Yeah,
it.
because imagine, for example, like Ranganathan comes with squillions of dollars.
Yeah.
Which he
And-
doesn't.
No, but imagine that he did for one
Well,
moment,
let's,
and a
let's
team
replace him
needed.
with Schumacher, who will come with squillions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Ranganathan could jump into, I don't know, Haas if there's no title sponsor at Haas next year. They go, oh, shit, where are we going to get this money from? And Ranganathan knocks on the door and goes, excuse me, you got squillions of dollars I'll give you if you give me that seat, but for at least the first half of the season. You're back in Rio Haryanto country there, really, aren't you? Where you're just gonna plow money into the team, but is no good in that car.
Yeah.
His name was Rio. He should have been watching from the stand.
Yeah, his name was Rio, and he definitely was in the sand.
The other thing to think as far as Sauber goes, this is one of the reasons I think Schumacher will be in that car next year, is because I think next year will probably be Kimi's last year, and Ferrari will probably be pretty keen to get Schumacher in next to Kimi, who knows how Ferrari work, who is
There's a link there
massively
as well.
experienced driver that who they know there's no politics or bollocks with, so
Yeah.
he'll be quite happy to help his teammate along.
There's a link there as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
You've got Michael Schumacher, the multi-time Formula One champion in a Ferrari, and then Kimi Räikkönen, the last driver to win in a Ferrari, and the last driver to win a world championship in a Ferrari.
Yeah. God, he is the last driver to win a race in a Ferrari, isn't he?
America last year.
Crazy.
Yeah. Nobody's won in a Ferrari since
And
Kimi
do you
Räikkönen.
know what? I think that'll still be the case come the end of the year.
I'm not sure. I think Ferrari have got a couple of opportunities to win races.
Assuming
I
they don't
think-
Ferrari it up.
Yeah, but I think Ferrari 4 races ago had opportunities to win coming up. I'm not sure Ferrari right now have any opportunities.
They should have won Canada. They should have won Bahrain.
No, but I think they fell further back.
Yeah. Oh, I think they have. They're now level,
When
if
we
not
get to
behind
Ferrari,
Red
I've
Bull.
got this week's chapter of Here's Why We Didn't Do Well, The Gospel According to Binotto.
But Alfa Romeo's grade, I want to give them a C minus.
C minus sounds good.
I think
C
I'll
to
go
C
straight
minus?
C. Straight C.
C-
Straight
C
down the middle with a
minus for
C
me.
seems
Yeah.
fair enough.
Straight C.
Not amazing, not really poor.
Yeah, kind of where we were expecting,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, then when we saw their front wing at the beginning of the season, we thought that could be
Different.
the fastest car out there. It isn't. It's not even the second fastest car because we thought Ferrari might be the fastest again.
Yeah.
And they're just not. But they're
All those points they got from the Winter Championship there.
well, yeah, but I mean, we talk about single drivers hemorrhaging points. Giovinazzi's hemorrhaging points for Alfa Romeo. Raikkonen's got every point for Alfa Romeo apart from that one
Yeah.
that Giovinazzi scored in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to come good. So I'm all
As
right.
we know, getting your long hair cut off, it does increase your power after a few weeks.
Does.
So
Look, I'm stronger than ever before.
isn't it Samson lost his power when he had his haircut? So I think a straight C for Alfa is a fair result.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good call. Toro Rosso. Bad week for Kvyat.
Mm-hmm.
Following on from his podium in Germany.
Yeah.
Binary couple of races for Danny Kvyat.
Yeah.
Alexander Albon there.
I don't think it was his fault though, was it? Didn't he get screwed over by race strategy?
I think he might have just been just didn't get the tyres right this time.
Yeah,
Did last week. Can't win them
I
all.
think they either pitted him too early or too late. It was one of the two.
I think he came in early, but I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah, I think he was one of the early stoppers because that's one thing that we noticed on Sunday because Pirelli was saying for the medium runners from the start.
They were pitting really soon.
You were
Yeah.
looking. They were saying lap 30 to 35 was the pit window.
and they
Yeah.
were pitting at like lap 18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was when you were expecting everyone that was on used softs to come in.
And I can't remember either they pitted him too late again for like a set of sort of tires towards the end, or they didn't do it. I remember him saying something about they should have done something else at the end, but I've forgotten.
But another good performance for Albon.
Yeah.
There was one point where I thought him and Kvyat weren't going to finish the race, where they were side by side going into turn
their
4.
wheel to wheel
and,
race was brilliant.
It was great racing.
Albon was on the drag strip.
Yeah.
But it was great racing.
It's good that they can race each other. The team's letting them race each other, and they can actually do it without wiping each other out.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they finished 5 places apart. Albon just, as we said before, stealing that final point from Perez. Whether or not there's a bit of argy-bargy going on there
So
is
just
besides
to
the point.
clarify, the Kvyat pit stop was lap 21, and it was his only stop. So he did
Right.
49 laps.
So he must have been saying they should have done what they did
He'll
with
have been
Hamilton.
on the canvas at the end,
Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah.
Must have-
Whereas Albon stopped on lap 28.
which was closer to the window.
Yeah.
But yeah, Toro Rosso are putting in some decent performances, and I think this was one definitely for Albon and a strategy mistake for Kvyat.
Yeah.
Well, they know where their strengths are, don't they, Toro Rosso? They know that Hungary is probably a circuit where they should be doing better than the rest of the midfield. So they're not quite at the head of the midfield, but remember last year, Hungary was a good race for them. Singapore, I think, is the next good one where they try and look, good on pace in, a similar kind of circuit, very stop-starty.
Look,
Sainz finished
I was
fourth
going to say
there,
Carlos
wasn't he?
Sainz got his fourth for Toro Rosso in Singapore, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's. I'm not sure that Toro Rosso are going to have a great second half of the season, but they've had a really good first half of the season.
The car's improved from where it was at the start.
Albon and Kvyat look like either of them could take that Red Bull seat, which let's be honest, is probably going to be up for grabs at the end of the year.
Oh, we've it is written big on here. Silly season. We will be going into. We will be going into that in 5 teams' time.
Yeah, either of them could go into that seat. Kvyat would do a sterling job, I think, in the Red Bull as Max's teammate, and I think exactly the same with Alex Albon. I think Alex Albon would do a good job in Red Bull.
I still think the jury would be out on Kvyat if they gave him the Red Bull drive, because he was pretty good in Toro Rosso the first time round. So I don't know whether it's something about that environment that suits him, or it's because right now there's a world of positivity behind him at the minute, because he's essentially rescued his Formula One career.
Yeah, he's doing good.
He's there's no real pressure on him other than just to go out there and prove that he should still be there.
Because he's got the experience of doing the job that Brendan Hartley's doing now.
Yeah, that's it.
Thing is, when you look at the first full season, the only full season that Kvyat did in the Red Bull, he outscored Ricciardo on points, beat him in the championship.
Yep.
Mhm.
But there's don't forget though, Ricciardo had a lot of technical problems that year. Like he had loads. He had awful luck. Right, I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, convinced of it. Yeah. So
Well, what was it? USA Grand Prix that year where he broke down and coasted for half a lap and buggered Kvyat's race.
yeah,
Yes, I remember
think
that. Yeah.
I think there was a couple of races where he didn't finish where he could have won them as well. Because Gasly didn't win a race. Kvyat didn't win a race either, did he?
Not for Red Bull, no. He finished on the
Ricciardo
podium.
only had 2 retirements that
Did
year.
he?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he had more.
When
Kvyat
Ricciardo
also
and-
had 2.
Where did he retire?
and 1 DNS.
When
Retired at Silverstone and Spa.
Oh, right.
I must be
interesting.
thinking of a different Danny Rick breakdown where he
Yeah.
coasted round and buggered the race.
Yeah.
up.
Oh, well.
US, he finished 5th.
But what the other thing I was
Sorry,
going to
excuse
say
me, I
was
misread that. US,
2
he
ra-
finished 10th.
two seats I think are unenviable seats, and that's whoever's next to Max Verstappen and whoever's next to Lewis Hamilton. And I worry that because of what we've seen like mentally from Kvyat before, what he would be like if he goes into Red Bull and then just gets fucking destroyed.
The only thing I think they would go against Albon going into Red Bull is for the exact same reason that they put Gasly. You know, Gasly looked okay in Toro Rosso,
Yeah.
moved up to Red Bull, not ready.
Yeah.
So Albon is one season looking pretty good, and then moving him up to Red Bull. If he's not ready,
Yeah, I think he needs another year, really, doesn't
I
he?
wouldn't mind seeing.
Getting back to the order that we're doing things here, because we've taken a shortcut and
We're still talking Toro Rosso.
Have we taken a shortcut or have we taken a detour? I think we might have just gone off piste a bit rather than.
But for the second half of the season, I think Kvyat and Gasly might swap seats for a couple of races and then back again.
I'm surprised that Christian Horner came out today and said that Gasly has to prove himself to stay in the team.
That has
because
been said.
I was convinced that he would be replaced for Spa.
This is the beginning of the end, isn't it, for Gasly? Let's be honest.
It was officially denied that Red Bull are going to get rid of him before the end of the season, and we all know what happens when something gets officially denied.
Definitely happening.
In the meantime, Toro Rosso grade.
Possibly B-, maybe. I don't know. They're ahead of Renault in the championship. That's good. Possibly
Renault
even a B
struggles
for
are
me.
making them look better than they are, but they've not been bad.
They've
I
not
think-
been bad.
I
Their
think
engines have lasted reasonably well.
Yeah.
I think they're roughly Alfa Romeo territory. I think a C
Yeah,
is fair for
they've
them.
had a podium, all right. There was some weather shenanigans, but
I'm going to go C+ because they've had a podium ahead of Alpha.
Under odd conditions.
You've still
Yeah.
got to put your car in that
car
position
was
to
on
do
the
it.
track.
Maybe.
And there was both cars did well in Germany. It wasn't just Kvyat
Albon
got
was
the
what,
look.
fifth?
Albon
Sixth?
was 6th.
A third and a sixth.
I
They
think,
had the
I
best
think
overall
straight
result.
C. Because the car's not quite there with Alpha, but the two drivers are more
Are
on
better,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a C is a fair result.
I'm happy to go with the majority. I would, like I say, I would possibly go a little bit higher, but
I'd have gone C+. Well, general consensus is a C.
Roughly,
Yeah.
Tell you what, C with a little asterisk.
C star.
Somewhere between
fuck
C
is
and a C+.
star?
A C, but a stronger C than Alpha's
C merit.
C.
Yeah. C with distinction.
Now,
Worst post-rock album ever.
let the talking begin.
Oh, it's McLaren next. Gutted for Lando because he had a wheel gun problem at his pit stop, which lost him 3 places.
He'd have either been ahead of Sainz or behind Sainz. if that hadn't
It
happened.
looks like he would have come out just behind Sainz.
No, I meant by the time the race finished.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
He would have been 6th on the
Yeah.
pace that he had, which would have been McLaren's best result since 2014.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm quite happy to give McLaren a B for where they are.
Let's talk about the race performance though, because
Carlos Sainz, brilliant again.
Yeah.
he is one smooth operator.
Well, that's, yeah.
Not necessarily a smooth singer.
No.
Social media performance of the day for Formula One for putting the video of Sainz singing up
Yeah.
If you
Very
haven't
funny.
seen it, definitely find it.
Yeah.
and being told I think it was a dodgy music channel.
We all questioned him because Sainz jumped before he was pushed from Renault, we think,
Yeah.
because it looked like he wasn't going to keep his seat at Renault. And then all of a sudden it was like, Sainz is a McLaren driver, and we thought, that's interesting. And then it was Sainz and Lando. It's like, okay, new lineup. Let's...
Sainz dodged a big yellow bullet.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, massively.
You don't have to move out of the way all that quickly.
And it looked like Sainz, the wily old character, Norris the rookie, who's how are they going to compare to each other? Where's the McLaren going to be? It's McLaren's best season for a number of years. They're not at the front, they're not fighting, for race wins.
No,
podiums.
when you look how much they've improved from last year.
We used to talk about McLaren first on the podcast. We always worked from back to front. And it was a running joke for a couple of years that we started the podcast with McLaren,
And now they're best of the rest. And
got a nice little gap as well.
yeah, that was the performance again this weekend. Nobody put a foot wrong on track.
Nope.
And the only problem was a technical screw up in the pits.
Yeah.
There was a few
Sainz
of
passed
those
Norris
as
at the
well.
beginning, so I think that put Norris on the back foot just a little bit, a little bit under pressure from Kimi Räikkönen behind him.
He said in the pit that he was probably gave Sainz a little bit too much room, but he did it because it was his teammate.
And I would now upgrade Lando from a bad starter to an inconsistent starter.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because sometimes he has good starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His first few. What was it? He lost something like 12 places in the first three races of the season.
He just needs to be a bit more aggressive off the starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a track where Lando's pretty good at because he in F2 last year, what was it? He went from 19th to 2nd.
Yeah,
something like
crazy.
that.
Race. I also think he's been pretty unlucky too. Yeah, with like the wheel going with technical problems,
Brake fire.
Yeah, I think
he would probably been a podium sitter in Germany if he hadn't retired.
Yeah, I think and I'd have been well better off. But I think if he hadn't have had the issues he's had so far this season, we'd be quite comfortably saying that they were the two best performing drivers.
I think they are
in
at
a
the moment,
team.
yeah.
But I think it just takes it away just because Lando's not got the points there that he probably should have.
He's a bit behind Sainz in the championship, but it's his first year in Formula One.
Yeah.
If he's still doing this, maybe this time next year, then
Beating him in head-to-head qualifying, which is a positive sign.
Oh
beating
yeah,
Sainz.
Yeah.
destroying him as well. If
Yeah.
I think rightly.
I had a good gap to Sainz in qualifying and through the practice sessions
Yeah.
as well. But at the end of the day, it comes down to where you finish in the race.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate that ninth.
Saturday points count as much as winter points.
Exactly, which is it's unfortunate for now. Which is unfortunate that Lando finished ninth, but that's where he finished.
I wonder if it's a bit of the Johnny Herbert syndrome with Lando. Do you think he's going to have to shed some of the smiley jokiness to sort of steel
Be a
himself
bit more
up
ruthless. Yeah, possibly.
It's hard to say because I think a lot of the problems that he's had have just been down to pure dumb luck.
Yeah.
But how much pure dumb luck is given to the British driver who plays the fool a bit?
Exactly.
True.
Yeah, I don't even think it's
As long as in
just
10
dumb
years'
luck.
time we don't get the Lando Norris story every 5 minutes in between the shows on Sky.
Yeah, he has because has Sainz had one DNF technical wise.
In Australia, he had something caught fire.
Yeah.
Bear with me.
Sean's doing the Googling.
Yes, because that was a big fire in Australia.
It was
Yeah.
like
Coming out the airbox. Yeah. Which,
in Bahrain he was classified 19th but didn't finish, and then since then he's finished every race.
Yeah. So he's had a better rub when it comes to issues.
Top 4 of the last 5 races.
What are we thinking? B minus?
I think a B is
B.
good.
Solid
for
B.
McLaren.
Straight up B,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I mean, the best they could have hoped for was to be, clear best of the rest.
I
They're
think
not,
this is better than they could have hoped for.
they're
Yeah,
not,
I mean they've been consistently ahead of a Red Bull for the last 4 or 5 races now.
That's
Okay,
again
it's that Red
dri-
Bull,
yeah,
but
it's the driver, isn't it?
if you'd have
not
offered
the
them
car.
that at the start of the season to be ahead of a Red Bull
But they
constantly,
appear to be chasing Red Bull now.
Yes.
Or Red Bull, Ferrari, whatever happens to be in front of them. They're chasing the top three
Yeah.
rather than looking
Trying to
behind
stay ahead
them.
of everyone
Yeah.
else.
Just-
yeah.
just-
Worth pointing out in the opening laps, the gap from Ferrari to McLaren that opened up was
Huge,
sizable and
huge,
huge
yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly, there were 20 seconds between Leclerc
So
and
by
Sainz.
about 10
Or
seconds,
Vettel
there was
and
a pit
Sainz.
stop between them.
And
Yeah.
let's not forget that like Ferrari was Ferrari 30 seconds or a minute behind.
It was a minute at
behind.
one
A
point.
minute at the end of the
behind.
race. So,
So it's McLaren are nowhere near challenger for podiums and wins yet.
not yet.
No, but they are
But-
they are challenging for Formula 1.5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the it's a million times better than where they were.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally. I think a B is a reasonable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
slightly biased perhaps view of McLaren, but no,
A plus star.
I think it's fair. I think a B is a fair result.
It would have been an A if they'd brought Jensen back.
Absolutely.
Right, Ferrari next. Vettel third, Leclerc fourth.
Nice little battle between the two of them at the end.
Yeah, and it looks like they actually kind of let them race a little bit. Didn't tell Leclerc to move over.
I think they did let them race. It's not that they kind of let them race. They did let them race.
It's Ferrari. There's always an element of suspicion.
Now, even when Seb finally got ahead of Leclerc at the end, he still fought him for that position. You know,
Yeah.
he still had to overtake him.
Yeah.
But I still go, and people get mad at me for saying this, but yet again, Sebastian Vettel proved that regardless of the love people seem to be garnering for Leclerc, 50-50 situations, you're going to go with Seb.
Yeah, totally different tyre strategies, much similar to the Max Lewis situation where
Yeah.
Leclerc's tyres were just completely gone. Vettel might have had a chance of catching him at the end of the race, and he did. And once he caught him, there was no defending.
Yeah.
But
I think, don't forget though, he did it in a shorter time though. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
I am most disappointed with Ferrari than I am out of any team so far this year in Formula One.
I agree.
Yeah,
we were promised great things at the
Yeah.
beginning of the season.
We-
Not necessarily by Ferrari, but by people around Ferrari, which makes it worse.
There seemed to be this feeling, didn't there, that
Is-
they were actually going to be quicker than Mercedes,
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
at the
We're
start
gonna
of the
have a
season,
battle.
and it's just not happened.
No.
We're going to have a real battle. And what if Leclerc is better than Vettel?
Yeah.
Is Leclerc going to be world champion at the end of the year? He's clearly going to win races this year. Well, we're over halfway through the
Still
season.
waiting to hear the Monegasque national
They
anthem.
had
And Ferrari haven't fucking won a race.
One race where they definitely should have won it.
Bahrain.
Yeah.
And Canada?
No, because Lewis was all over the back of him. He'd have, if it hadn't been there, it would have been somewhere else. You can't say they almost won a race when Vettel had to go off the track to keep Lewis behind him.
I don't think that was the car. I think that was
Seb.
Vettel's pressure problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But you can't say Vettel should have won that race when that happened.
And
You
we
know?
were looking like a preseason. We're looking like a team with two potential world champions
Yeah.
in that team. Now look like two potential third place finishers.
Yeah.
Well, we have this week's Binotto excuse for why
Good.
Ferrari underperformed. It basically comes down to the fact that the circuit was too slow for them because they don't have the downforce.
They're on the downfalls, but they do
But you
have good
find that
straight line
circuit-
speed.
Been to that circuit before, though. You know how it acts.
And
The car is very aero sensitive and it doesn't work well in high downforce situations like it is at Hungary. So the circuit wasn't quick enough for them to be able to challenge and end up being a minute off the pace.
Now-
So then,
No.
which is near enough to a second a lap.
in
at
which
race
case,
pace.
then if they're throwing away all the high downfall circuits, they want to get rid of Singapore and they want to get rid of Japan
yeah.
and Interlagos.
File that alongside Lewis's. I couldn't overtake Rosberg. He was going too slowly.
That was the other way round. Because Rosberg couldn't overtake Lewis because he was going too slowly.
I can't remember which way. But
Yeah.
one Mercedes couldn't overtake the other because the one in front wasn't going fast enough.
Yeah.
It's I think that about sums Ferrari's recent seasons up.
I think so. I do.
Underperform where you're expected to perform, and then make an excuse at the end of it.
I think they've got two races after the summer break which are their best chances this year of a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
And then they've
Spa.
got 4 weeks to stew on it, so we'll inevitably Ferrari it
Yeah.
up.
Spa and Monza are
And
the
we all
two-
know how well Monza went last year.
Yeah, well, where they should have absolutely belted Mercedes.
That fuck you lap by the Mercedes running side by side on the cool down lap last year was just...
Yeah. It was psychologically damaging for Ferrari. And it was hugely
You
psychologically
know what
damaging
Ferrari's
for Ferrari.
big problem now is?
Sebastian
Ferrari.
Vettel.
Red Bull.
Yeah.
Red
I,
Bull-
I don't think it is just Sebastian Vettel, because I think Leclerc looked bang average all of a sudden.
Again, he's one who's kind of blown hot and cold. There's been the odd race where you can see him winning it, and then strategy goes tits up.
I think he's been overrated.
And then you get races like Monaco
Yeah.
where just, pressure,
Yeah.
put it in a wall.
I think he's just...
Proves he's as good as Vettel then.
He should have won a race, don't get me wrong. I won't take that away from him. But he should have been able to race for the race. You don't know what would have happened come the end of it, especially with the tyre problems that Ferrari have had all the way through the season. But he doesn't look like a world champion. Like, people are saying that Ferrari, they should go all in with Leclerc and treat him as the future of Ferrari. He doesn't look like a team leading driver.
Well,
No.
they've treated him as the future of Ferrari by putting him in a
Yeah.
Ferrari after just 1 year while he's still 23, 24.
Yeah.
That's not their usual.
Leclerc.
Yeah.
He's like 22,
Is
isn't
he 22?
21, 22.
But what I'd argue is, because I think for this, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton and not Pierre Gasly,
Max Verstappen.
and Max Verstappen are perfect benchmarks of this. Because although I was skeptical about Max Verstappen at first, and I was never skeptical of how fast he was, it was just how crashy he appeared to be.
He's maturing well.
Mhm.
Yeah, but he, in the same way as Lewis and in the same way as Sebastian Vettel, you could see there was something a bit special about him. And I think you can see it instantly with drivers. I don't believe in the slow burn world champion. Yeah, I know people bring like Button up in those things, but I think when people bring Button up, they forget the fact that he looked fucking special in that Williams in his first year.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Leclerc looks like a special driver.
I think he does. He does on occasion, and sometimes the car lets him down. Sometimes,
Yeah, but not potential world champion special. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think he should be nerfed out of Formula One. By any
No,
stretch
God
of the
no.
imagination.
I think he's future talent gone to Ferrari too soon.
You think it's too Ferrari too soon?
Yeah, I mean, I at the beginning of the season was like, well, what if Leclerc puts the manners on Vettel and you know, it totally number two's Vettel and this Ferrari's really good. Leclerc could be winning the world championship at the end of the year.
If Leclerc was a world championship contender, he would be putting the manners on Vettel, because Vettel is a 50% of the driver that he was in Red Bull.
That's a fair statement to make.
So if Leclerc is a bit behind Vettel or on pace with Vettel, he's on pace with a wounded ex-world champion.
Yeah, and as I said before, Ferrari at the Hungaroring was a perfect sum up of Ferrari's first half of the season. They're nowhere near the front where they thought they should be, but they're also just ahead. You know, they're comfortably ahead of the rest of the pack, but they're still nowhere near Mercedes. And now Red Bull, or a Red Bull, is mixing it with and a Red Bull driver is now second in the championship.
Yep. I'm throwing it out
He's
I
there.
think
No, he's
five
third.
five
He is
points.
third.
It's
By
5
far. Oh,
points,
right,
I think.
okay.
I'm chucking it out there first.
Okay.
F minus.
Whoa.
F. It's an F for me.
F minus, because they looked like they were going to be challenging for world
And they're
championship,
failing.
and they don't look like they can challenge for like
A race
teas and
win.
coffees.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
F from me as well.
I think I have to agree with the F.
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's a great deal
Straight
of
up
arguments.
F.
Straight F.
Straight F.
Most disappointing team by
Yeah.
far.
F. Must try
Well,
harder. See me.
Listen, Italy just turned off.
Are we big in Italy?
Goodbye-
I didn't
goodbye
know that
both
we were
of you.
big in Italy.
Well,
I
no,
don't know
but
if we're big
but-
in Italy, but I mean, we do have Ferrari fans who listen, and I
I imagine they was similarly frustrated.
yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
what I was going to say. I want Ferrari to win a race. I want Ferrari to give us a championship challenge. They are not capable of it, and
Nope.
that makes me a little bit mad, because I like watching racing. I like as many teams as possible to get involved with the racing. And instead, all we've seen, but we were saying yesterday, is the championship done? Which was the summer break? Is the championship done?
Yeah, of course it's done.
There's
Championships only used to be won in Hungary when there were 16 races in a season.
Yeah.
Mansell in 92, Schumacher in 04 when it was 17 races.
Max Verstappen is, I mean, because what is he 60 points behind? About 60 points?
It's 62 between Hamilton and Bottas, and I've just double checked. It's 7 between Bottas and Verstappen, so that'll be
69.
69.
And Lewis has already had the howler of a race, which you think he would have, and Verstappen won that race. So Verstappen needs him to have at least 2 more complete howlers,
At least.
to get himself in, to
And
get
be
himself into
consistently
fight.
ahead of Mercedes,
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the last 4 races, he has more points than anyone.
Yeah.
He is in the moment. I think summer has possibly
Definitely
come at the wrong time for him.
He's definitely the informed driver.
Very
Yeah.
much.
With the informed car. You know, Red Bull and the Honda package is working really, really well for Max Verstappen. But when it's supposed to be Ferrari that are challenging for world championships,
I think
they're just not.
No.
I think not Vettel. Fuck, I keep maxing my drivers up. I think Max's big problem going through the rest of the year is what we're going to talk about in the silly season thing. I think that might upset the apple cart a little bit for him.
But on to the race performance this weekend. Red Bull caught out by Mercedes.
Caught out, good pole. Hamilton probably should have been second on the grid if he hadn't fucked his first sector up. But them's the breaks.
I think we may as well do sort of the race review for the top 2 teams at the same time because it all kind of mixes in.
Yeah.
And also Gasly.
And
All right,
also
all right,
Bottas.
all right. We'll do Gasly and Bottas, and then we'll talk about the front.
Yeah.
Starting with Gasly. God, he went backwards from the start again.
He didn't qualify well, and then
No.
he didn't race well. He was overtaken by pretty much he was overtaken by 2 McLarens and an Alfa Romeo at the start.
Yeah, he's not even putting that car where it deserves to go. Do you know what I mean? Like you can get an underperforming driver that can still get positions because they're in a good car.
He went through a phase, didn't he, where he was 6th for like a little run, and he
Yeah.
was always well off 5th, but he was at least being 6th in this battle.
Well,
of
he was
3
6th in this
race-winning
race.
teams.
The problem is there was a McLaren in front of him, and any other driver in that Red Bull would have caught and passed that McLaren.
Yeah.
He did not for the whole race. Sainz stayed ahead of him.
Well, I thought, how far was he behind the leaders in the end?
Over a lap.
Oh,
He
He
got lapped.
got lapped, didn't he?
Yeah.
Crazy. I thought I thought he'd at least, like you say, stay in that 6th position, because I even nicknamed the idea of that like fastest lap point. I thought that was
Yeah.
going to end up being the Gasly point because he was that far ahead of the midfield, but he wasn't challenging. They might as well throw a set of softs on him at the end of the race, and he's not even in position to get the extra point.
No, I think twice he's done that, and then since then he's just fallen back.
He lost Max Verstappen that race.
By not being a rear
By
gunner.
not being up there with
Yeah.
him. Because, I mean, Verstappen, his tyres were going off towards the end. He needed a wingman. And you're my eyes, Goose. Oh, sorry, I'm looking in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Nowhere near, as you were saying earlier, Lee, if that was Danny Ricciardo, he'd have been 2nd, 3rd. They wouldn't have had the free pit stop to make Mercedes.
And then on to the other number 2 driver in the top team. Another nightmare for Bottas.
Bottas was okay off the start, got side by side with Hamilton, but made 2 mistakes in the first 2 corners. He outbraked himself in the first corner, and Hamilton noticed it last second.
I thought he was going to cream into the side of
Yeah,
Hamilton.
so
I
did
thought
I.
they were
And-
both gone.
So then Hamilton went, right, okay, well, I didn't get around you that in turn 1. I'll go around you in turn 2. And then Bottas did exactly the same thing in turn 2.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that they touched going through turn 3. They didn't. Bottas sort of just twitched out of the way slightly. And it was then he was then so off away with the fairies somehow coming out of turn 3.
I think it was the twitch. I think because he had to avoid contact with Hamilton, I think it completely took any forward momentum off him going up that hill.
And Leclerc then went past him, and then but weirdly Charles Leclerc just kind of drifted into Bottas and damaged his front wing.
Weird.
It wasn't
was strange.
It wasn't even a drift when you look at it. It was a full on dink.
Well, he just sort of just slowly comes into Bottas's path and just takes his front wing off.
He looked like he was understeering while he was going straight.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't look into that more.
I think they probably only didn't because it was the first lap, and you get a little bit more leeway, don't you?
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, this was another good race to show just how inconsistent the stewards are.
And Mercedes clearly wanted Bottas to come in as soon as possible to switch onto, switch that front wing because they knew they were going to be losing significant amounts of downforce. Bottas waited 6 laps until Leclerc was like nearly 10 seconds ahead of him.
Although Mercedes came out every lap.
Yeah.
Well, because
they
wanted
expected
Bottas
him.
to pit, and Bottas refused to pit.
Did he refuse, or did they keep cancelling him and we didn't hear it?
Well, why would they kept sending their men out into the pit?
Yeah,
lane.
they might have been sending them out, and then someone's calling them back in and out and in and out and in.
Well, I did tell.
But if they do that, the team leaves themselves open to a penalty because you're not meant to do that.
Yeah, but given the fact that it's a safety thing, and they would have got away with it because they could have said, "Well, look, we weren't sure how dangerous that wing was, and we didn't know whether we could leave them out or not." I think you'd be pretty harsh to give anyone a penalty for that.
It would have been a team penalty and not a driver penalty, so you're probably looking at a fine.
Well, in the end, they ended up penalising Bottas even worse because I think if it was a team decision, were they looking for a gap to feed him back into because he fed out last anyway?
Yeah.
So it didn't matter.
Well, what was it? When he came out the pits, he was 12 seconds behind Kubica.
16.
Was it? 16, which lasted 4 laps.
4 laps. 4 laps later, he passed Kubica.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
And then,
but he didn't keep that momentum up for the rest of the race.
But then the team said they told him over the radio, you should finish 6th if everything plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But they stopped him again towards the end of the race.
Yeah, but I think that was part of the plan as well. I think they had another pit stop in mind because I don't think that they could have actually run the hards for
all of the race.
61 laps.
I don't even think Hamilton's stop was like a roll of the dice. I think that was a strategy that they hadn't informed Hamilton of. I
think it was probably on like a sheet somewhere.
Yeah.
This is plan A, and that was maybe C or D.
Because when you look at the drop off, and they kept talking about Max Verstappen's tyres beforehand, I think that was one that was kept in the back pocket if people's tyres were going off.
Yeah.
Because it seemed obvious when Mercedes pitted Lewis and you started seeing what was going on with tyres around him. It seemed like an obvious thing that these drivers weren't going to make it to the end of the race.
Bottas probably helped that in a way as well because they'd obviously then had a car out for quite a chunk of time on the hards and thought, oh, that's not going well.
Yeah.
That's not going to last well on the other car either.
And then of course they had the time in hand over Ferrari, so they were still going to retain the track position at the end of the pit stop, which is how it worked. So I think you're right. There were variables and they all just fell into place for that perfectly.
Here's one though. If Max and Lewis were over, what do we say? Was it a minute ahead of the Ferraris?
I'm sure when Verstappen pitted, I think it was 59 seconds.
Yeah. With that pace, does that not suggest?
Yeah, I think Leclerc was the next driver to be lapped.
Mm-hmm.
Does that not suggest though, if the Mercedes in Lewis Hamilton's had that pace, that if it was Lewis Hamilton that had that problem, he would have been on the back of the Ferraris, if not got himself back onto the podium.
Yeah, quite
probably.
possibly. I mean, before Germany or before Silverstone, Toto Wolff said that Bottas had a couple of races to show us what he can do.
If it was these 2 races, it's not been a great display. Really,
a huge mistake in Germany.
Yeah,
which ended in a DNF. Under extenuating circumstances, fair enough, and then 2 mistakes in the first 2 corners, which essentially ruined his race. In Hungary, he's not sitting pretty. He's got to be right on it as soon as the summer break is over, unless Mercedes have already made that decision. Because
I think they've made that decision.
Somebody on Sky, I can't remember who it was, said that Mercedes are making the decision over the summer break, and Bottas will be informed.
Yes, before
or after the race weekend in Belgium.
Yeah, I think it'll be announced before what's going on, because I think they need to do it as well for Ocon's sake, because obviously I think
Ocon's got opportunities
Yeah.
elsewhere if he's
So-
not going to Mercedes. Yeah.
But I don't think. Are we going to dip into silly season now?
Well, let's give
let's
grades.
finish the
We still
grading.
need to do some grades, and we've got our prediction results to talk
Yeah.
about
Right,
as
okay,
well.
Cool.
We'll get there.
But we haven't really spoken about Lewis's performance after the second stop
I think he was
and
brilliant.
the way that he hunted him down. You stuck a poll on Twitter earlier about could anyone else do it.
Mhm.
Have you got the results of that?
I can get the results for
Was
you.
it? Wasn't it if Max could do it?
Yeah. It was. Yeah, it was if Max could do it. Where's
Would Max have done it the other way round? Hunted Hamilton down like Hamilton hunted Verstappen down?
Keep listening. There
was
is
gonna
other
say,
things going on.
For Red Bull over the first half of the season, I would give them an A-. I don't. It's been a good,
Yeah.
strong season.
Better than
But-
expected.
I
Better-
would go A-/D. A- for Verstappen, D for Gasly.
Right.
The car is good.
The car is good. Yeah,
my
definitely.
poll was: could Max have done what Lewis did in the same situation? And the options were: no way, man. Yes, Max attack. Or Lewis Hamilton tyre doctor equals no drop off. I personally think that in that situation,
Lewis Hamilton tyre doctor.
Lewis Hamilton's tyres wouldn't have dropped off as much as Max, and he'd have still won the race. I also think when you watched Lewis chase down Max Verstappen, it was obvious how much better at getting through traffic Lewis Hamilton is to Max Verstappen. So
Well, what was it? The who was it that got held up behind trying to lap? I think it was Perez. Verstappen took about
2 seconds. He lost 2 seconds
I think it was about 8 corners before
Yeah.
Verstappen managed to get past, and then Lewis just breezed past in his way.
in his corner. Yeah. Well, I think essentially he overtook him without giving Perez the chance to let him through.
Yeah.
So we had 33% thought Max couldn't do what Lewis did. 58% thought Max could do it, and 9% thought what I thought, that Lewis's tyres would have been.
I think the best answer to that, I can't remember. You have to have a look who tweeted the reply, but somebody said yes, Max could do it, but I don't think the Red Bull could have.
That was Cammy Hutton, and I don't. I read that. I didn't reply to it because I thought we'd talk about it on the podcast. I don't understand that idea because it's always been Red Bull, which were the racier strategy guys. So I think Red Bull are perfectly capable of making that call to put Max in. The only thing was that there was they couldn't have. Max's tyres were going off worse than Lewis's.
Yeah.
They pit Max. Lewis has still got better tyres.
It's a lose-lose either
Fresher
way.
tyres, because didn't he? Was his tyres 8 laps younger? Did he stay out for an extra 8 laps?
I want to say 6.
On the hard tyres,
Yeah.
I think Lewis's were. The difference was 8 laps, I think.
I think it was. So he had 8 laps fresher tyres than what Max couldn't get to finish the race on. So he probably wouldn't have had to stop again. He'd have had a 20+ second lead, as well as Max getting through the traffic. I think if they'd have pitted Max, I just don't think he'd have been able to get up to Lewis.
I think if the roles were reversed, no. But I mean, Red Bull got out strategized.
No, but they
This
didn't.
time,
they
definitely.
didn't
because of
they
the
didn't-
situation, I think. Yeah.
because they couldn't. There was no other option. I'd agree that they got out strategized if there was something else that they could do.
That
and they
strategy
slept
just
on it.
wasn't an option for them.
Yeah. It wasn't there for them.
I still think they had a chance the lap after. Lewis pits, tell Max to push for a lap, then pit him.
That's the only thing that you'd think. But Lewis was so fast at that point of the race, and I think the circuit stopped Lewis getting past. He was too polite with Max the first time we tried to pass. He even said himself he probably could have been a bit more aggressive, but he's got a championship to win. They knew what they had pace-wise because Lewis was sitting 2 seconds behind Max, and he radioed in saying, "Just tell me when you want me to close in on him."
Yeah.
So they had a bag of time in the bag there, a bag of time. The reason Lewis, right, they fucked Lewis, to be perfectly honest, to start with, because they left him out too long. But as it turns out, it worked better for him the way the tyres were going. But he lost a big chunk of time.
It was
that
about
he'd
6
made.
seconds he
Yeah,
came
yeah.
out
But he made it up
behind.
instantly.
Yeah,
Well,
it was just gone. I think sooner or later on younger tyres, even if they hadn't stopped Lewis, he'd have got past.
Yeah.
As it was, I just think it was a fucking brilliant drive.
But what I'm saying is Red Bull had one opportunity, the lap after Hamilton pitted,
Yeah, but I
to bring
don't.
Verstappen in.
But they wouldn't have won the race because Lewis was quicker. They had the quicker car, so they'd have pitted. They'd have pitted Max.
Yeah.
They'd have still
Lewis
been
would have-
behind Lewis.
Yeah, would have undercut him. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was quite we've talked about Lando Norris already, but that wasn't the only pit stop where something got stuck. And
No,
that
quite
was,
a lot of pit stops went
Yeah.
wrong.
They
yeah.
think because
Yeah.
of temperature. So if you've got such a marginal time, you can guarantee that's the pit stop that
Yeah.
you get something jamming on and you lose 3 or 4 seconds. And
Well,
it's
even
gone.
even Lewis's pit stop when he put the hards on wasn't
It wasn't slick,
It was
was
about
it?
4
Yeah.
seconds or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Red Bull's grade then, I think an A- is a.
Yeah, I
For
think
the,
I think
for the,
A minus
definitely
is
for the
fair.
Verstappen side of the garage.
A
Just for the
minus,
car and the team
Yeah.
in general, you know.
A minus or B plus because I don't think we can. I don't think you can grade Red Bull and not consider Gasly in the situation.
I think he's losing them points and he's losing them marks.
Marks, yeah. I think a B plus because we still don't know.
That's not unfair. B plus is.
Yeah,
I'd be
I
happy
don't
with
know.
that.
We still don't know whether this is the rise of Red Bull, where they're going to start challenging Mercedes, or it's just
A
been
false dawn.
a couple of races where they've been on it.
A false dawn.
Maybe
where-
it's their turn for a false dawn this season. Ferrari have had enough for the last few years.
Yeah, false dawn where Max is just, excuse the pun, maximising everything that he's got. And when he can't maximise it, then the car's not quite there. But B plus, I think that's fair. Everyone
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
with that?
That's also a great name for a sex doll.
What?
A false dawn.
And what mark do we give Mercedes moving swiftly on?
Sex doll out of 10.
I think it's got to be an A, hasn't it?
I think it's got to be.
I think, I mean, realistically,
Is it 10
Hamilton-
race wins in 12?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hamilton 8 out of 12.
yeah.
Bottas wins races when Hamilton doesn't, apart from the ones where he crashes.
Apart from the ones where he doesn't.
Except for the ones where Verstappen
We can't give him
wins
an A
them.
plus because it's not been
perfect.
Yeah.
It would have to be 12 out of 12 for it to be an A plus.
Yeah. I think... I
which
think
is almost impossible.
I think it's the same for both Mercedes and Hamilton. I think they both deserve an A. No, each.
And I just want to start just say as well, the count, I said this yesterday when Hamilton crossed the line, the countdown is now on. Hamilton is now 10 race wins away
Yeah.
from equaling Schumacher's
How many
91.
races are left?
10.
He can technically equal it.
Equal it. He could.
It would be a massive undertaking to win 10 races.
He's good in the second half of the season, is Lewis
Yeah.
Hamilton, but I don't think he's quite going to win every race.
tell you what,
Verstappen wins Mexico, though, doesn't he?
Purely,
That's his thing.
purely because dumb luck. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's just not going to win every
No,
race.
no.
Sorry, I'm just sticking.
That's
just
fine,
sticking
you
these
crack
marks
on.
Instagram.
Yeah,
But
no.
next year, I say Lewis Hamilton takes that record.
Yeah,
Because
you
I
would
would
think, yeah.
I would say Lewis wins at least 5 of the last 10 races.
And that would put him on like 86, maybe 87
Yeah.
by the time,
And then as soon as that's done and dusted, we can say, well, when's he going to get 100 wins in his
Could be
career?
Probably the year after,
It
yeah.
could be next year.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I said Sunday. I reckon he can do it in Monaco.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to get 100 pole positions
Yeah.
next year. He's already on something like 86 pole
That
positions,
sounds
something like
about
that.
right.
Yeah. I also think that race in Hungary, given because Red Bull did technically do everything right. I think they did everything right to get Max where he was, but
Yeah.
he proved that the torch isn't ready to be passed on yet.
Yeah.
And you have at least, I think, another couple of years of Lewis being the guy to beat.
The top 5 drivers of wins of all time. Senna's now 5th in all-time drivers, 41 wins. Prost with 51, which looked unbeatable
Yeah,
at one point in time.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, imagine that, 50
I mean, we
wins
have
in
more
Formula
races now, but even so,
One. We do, but 51 wins. He's still 4th on the all-time list. Vettel is 3rd with 52,
yeah.
and Hamilton is 2nd on 81.
Well, I think like the fact that Schumacher's record is going to be beaten because I can accept.
Well, it's within sight.
Yeah, but I can accept like Prost and Senna's records gone because there are like there's much
Different
more
eras,
races than
totally.
races.
Yeah.
But Schumacher era, there was still a few races.
Yeah.
What was it? 19 race seasons then.
17,
18,
18,
17 to
19.
Yeah.
19.
So we were still. It wasn't like we were on like 14 race seasons or
No,
anything
no,
like
no.
that. So, but I can't believe that that Michael Schumacher's championship record and win record can be broken in my lifetime. I would have thought that would outlive me.
And it could go next. Well, the equal championships could go next year if Hamilton does the same thing
Isn't
again.
it equal this year?
No, it would be 6 this year.
Oh, is it? So equal next year.
Scary thought.
Crazy.
Right, heroes and villains.
Ferrari, the villains.
driver of the day for anyone.
Driver of the
I
I
think
said-
it has to be Hamilton.
Hamilton.
I said Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz is
I
a good
think it's
alternate option. Yeah.
Definite honourable mention. And I said at the time on Sunday, driver of the day is whoever wins this battle towards the end.
Yeah.
Verstappen for holding Lewis off, or Lewis for making up that gap. Lewis
think
made up the gap.
I think it's not just even if people say, oh well, he's got the car or he's got the tyres. It's the idea of coming out 20 seconds behind somebody, having 20 laps left, and having the self belief.
It's like
to
when they
keep
sent
going.
Schumacher out, wasn't it? Do you remember Schumacher in his 20 qualifying laps to
Yeah.
beat Häkkinen at Hungary?
Well, I said on Twitter it was going to be the last 5 laps, and it most definitely was. You know, it was those last 5 laps that won the race. But it's the fact that if he hadn't have like backed himself to just keep pumping those fastest laps in, if his head would have dropped and he'd have like he wasn't pushing, Max would have still won the race.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's maybe Lewis Hamilton's most impressive win.
It's definitely up there.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
Villains. Any other than Ferrari?
Ooh.
Bottas?
Not really
Not
a villain.
really a
Just
I mean, yeah, you could look at sort of Bottas and Gasly, but did they just not really have any effect rather than villainy as such?
I'm going to throw a left field one out here. Ralph Boschung.
Oh, for dumping a pile of shit.
Dumping half his engine contents on the track in turn 4 during the first F2 race.
It wasn't his fault.
And monumentally bollocksing up qualifying.
To be fair, I think it's one of the reasons we gave a good race, and it's
Slightly smushy grid. helped, I think.
Actually, it's a Mechachrome engine that got dumped all over the place. And Flavio Briatore. That's his company.
Oh, he's usually a villain, yeah.
It's yet another reason why the idea of getting rid of some of the practice sessions is a good idea.
So the villain was F1.
the villains was FP2 because it was boring as fuck because no one went out.
No.
Because it was wet, and they knew it wasn't going to be wet on Saturday, and they
But
knew it wasn't going to be
Again,
wet on Sunday.
we didn't have an FP2.
No,
We had a 15-minute FP3, was it?
no, it was.
It was 50 minutes.
50 minutes, sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
FP1, hardly any running.
everyone went into qualifying not really knowing where they were.
Well, they did it all in FP3.
We had one of the best qualifying sessions of the year, and we had a great race.
Yeah.
Sack fucking practice
Sack
session.
Fridays off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe just have a slightly longer FP, what is now FP3.
Yeah.
And because everybody seemed to tune it in, dial it in quite well, quite
Mhm.
quickly. And the order wasn't upset really, was it? Let's
Nope.
be honest.
Couple of drivers out of position, but that was the way that they performed during qualifying themselves. I'm talking,
So
talking Ricardo.
Yeah, Ricardo and Perez.
So if we're going to put the sorry, Paul, I'm just moving your phone. If we're going to put the teams in grade order, at the back is Ferrari with the only F. Then Haas
People
margin.
aren't going to like that.
I don't care if they don't like it. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Haas are marginally in front of them with an E. So we're saying that Haas have done marginally better than Ferrari purely because Ferrari's expectations were so high.
Anything connected to a Ferrari apart from Alpha is fucked.
Yep, basically. And then we've got Renault on a D minus, and then Racing Point and Williams on a D. Purely, Williams are only on a D because of
Development.
Yeah,
D
literally.
for development.
Yeah, absolutely. Alfa Romeo on a C, Toro Rosso on a C asterisk.
C distinction.
Yeah, C merit, I think you called it, didn't you, Lee? McLaren.
C merit run merit run.
The top three teams then.
I want to change my vote. I
Oh.
think Ferrari get a C.
Why?
A sea of misery and disappointment.
Go on, top three.
Top three
Big
teams:
moment.
McLaren B, Red Bull B plus, and Mercedes A, because they've almost had a faultless season.
Yeah.
Mm.
And McLaren are most improved from last year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, struggling to get into Q3 to running 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely most improved. Right, how did we do on the predictions?
Not well.
I got 3 points.
Let's have a
Did you?
look.
All the right
I can never
drivers.
remember, you know.
No, I just say what comes into my head. and then,
All the right drivers in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
That was me.
People who aren't here, Dan went for Leclerc, Verstappen and Bottas and got himself 3 points. Guest predictor was Marcel Strijk from the Netherlands, who didn't go for a Verstappen win. He went for a Hamilton win. Verstappen second, Bottas third. 6 points.
Not
Well
bad.
done,
And
Marcel.
man.
actually beat everyone here.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Lee, you had a Verstappen win, Vettel second and Bottas third.
Not good.
2 points. Sean, yours was a Verstappen win, Leclerc second, Hamilton third. 2 points. Chris, Verstappen win, Vettel second, Hamilton third. 3 points.
All the right drivers, all the wrong places.
Not necessarily in the right order. And mine was a Verstappen win, Vettel second, Leclerc third, so 2 points for me. So as we go into the summer break, I'm on 44, Dan's on 38, Lee, you're on 36, Chris 35, guest predictors 34, and Sean bringing up the rear with 29.
I'm going to have to start doing like
you are gonna have to
Lando
have
Norris podium
You're going to have a
predictions.
racing point of the second half
Yeah.
of the season.
Yeah.
More predictions to come.
In 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
3
Lord.
weeks for predictions.
Yes.
3 weeks for predictions. Three weekends without any Formula One.
I'm okay with that.
No, I'm not.
Tell you what, let's have some wild speculation.
Yes.
Well, we've already spoken a little bit about the team, so let's just breeze over some silly season stuff.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
the first thing is the 2021 regulations, which is a favourite subject.
that's even
of us
sillier,
on here,
isn't it?
And it
Jesus.
looks like they're not going to happen in 2021 now.
Because the teams have started arguing again.
Does that mean we stop calling them the 2021 regulations?
No, because it's funnier that way.
Okay.
They're not going to be done in 2021 because there was a meeting on Thursday, I think it was, of all the teams to sort of clarify some of the things for 2021, and then Mattia Binotto and Christian Horner decided to say, look, we need to know, why are we changing everything? We need to know what direction we're actually trying to go in before we try and start changing things, because you're literally changing everything on the car, from the tyres to the aero to the engines to, like, there's nothing going to be the same, not a single thing carrying over from now to 2021 regulations.
I think the tyres are going to be the same because it's 18-inch wheels from next year.
Yeah, but from now
Yeah.
until
From now, yeah.
from nothing carrying over from now into to 2021. So, Mattia Binotto and Christian Horner think that throwing it all up in the air and seeing where it lands is not the right way to go, and I can kind of see where they're going with that.
It depends how good the team that putting these rules together are.
McLaren team boss Andrea Seidel quite angrily apparently said, look, just tell us what the fucking rules are and we'll build the car to that spec.
Seidel is now my new god.
I think that's
All worship
Yeah.
Seidel.
I think that's kind of a lot of feeling towards the regulations. Just
Yeah.
make a decision and then people can get on
You
with
have
it.
Have bloody done with it.
You have an apostle in me, Mr. Seidel.
So, yeah, Andrea Seidel not siding with Horner and Binotto, and Mercedes keeping quite quiet on things. I think we all know why.
Yeah.
Mercedes are quite happy with how things are. They don't want things to change because they're favourably winning at the moment.
I still wouldn't guarantee a F1 style, there's your rules, guys, and it being the Seidel style thing. If the 2021 rules, to be perfectly honest, if new rules are ever going to come into Formula One and we're going to get this big refresh of Formula One, it's going to have to be that way.
It has to be a big
the
refresh,
teams are
yeah.
never going to agree on things.
No, well, this is exactly why, and then the debate was then raging about, well, do the teams have too much say? We've said all along the teams have got too
Absolutely.
much say.
There's one team still with a bloody veto on any new rule that comes in.
And they
that?
keep vetoing the attempts to get rid of it.
Automatically, that is the teams having too much say.
Well, luckily enough, that veto will go in 2021. There's no way when they draw up new Concord agreements
But that's going to be a
veto
thing.
will still be in it.
Yeah.
But I think the whole rules package is part and parcel with the new Concord agreement, and what is looking more and more likely at the moment is it's going to be a 1-year extension to the current terms.
Maybe.
I have to be honest, I don't see Ross Brawn taking the amount of shit that previous people in charge of rule making at Formula One will have taken. I can actually see Ross Brawn going, no, I've worked too hard on this. This is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Or this is.
And
is
he
it,
also
or I'm
understands
off.
the politicking with teams.
Yeah,
Of
because
course he
he's
does,
done it from
He's
the other
done it.
side himself. You know,
And he's employed a team of people to find loopholes in his own rules.
Yeah.
Mhm. And there's also Formula One. You've got to think that Formula One and the shareholders of Formula One are going to be sat around a board meeting going, look, lads, we have told the people watching this sport that 2021 is going to be a big refresh of Formula One. You make this fucking happen, yeah? Because Formula One is going to look ridiculous to its fans
Yeah.
yeah.
if this doesn't happen.
We've seen the renderings of the cars. They look great.
Yeah.
Yep.
They look fantastic. It's the right time to do this, because if they don't do it, then it's going to start looking like an ancient fucking motorsport.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it is about time they kicked themselves up the arses.
How long have I been saying when we've been talking about what should go on with Formula One, that if you take like just Johnny off the street that doesn't really watch Formula One and you show him a 2007 Arrows and you show him a Mercedes, he's going to look at those two cars. Apart from the halo, if you just Photoshop the halo out of it, he's going to look at those two cars and think there is no reason
Bless you.
why they shouldn't be racing on a track together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how little evolution it's had.
Yeah. You might say, oh yeah, they look a bit more different. The Mercedes looks like it's got
Yeah,
a bit more of
that's
this and a bit
obviously
more
a
of
better
that.
car. Is that car at the back of the grid?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 But that would be the only difference.
Yeah.
One thing that you've not written down on here, 22 race calendar for next season is looking like it's going to happen because the teams voted for it.
Well, yeah, no, they haven't voted for it. They voted for it in principle.
The teams have
They haven't blocked
agreed
it.
to it.
They've agreed to vote.
They've agreed to it in principle because Claire Williams in particular says that it comes with massive caveats.
It's going to be if it goes through, it'll be 2 3-day tests at the start of the season next year instead of 2 4-day tests.
And there's another conversation happening about what to do with the engines, because at the moment Renault and Honda are not making their engine power units last 21 races. So if they make it 22 races, Renault and Honda suppliers as manufacturers want to increase to 4 per season, but Mercedes and Ferrari have turned around and said no, because we're looking at increasing the calendar and keeping it the same anyway. So there's no point in increasing the power units if we're going to get 4 power units for a 24 race calendar post 2021. So there's an argument there which means it may not happen.
Do you know what I don't understand about Formula One? Is
The politics?
apart from the politics, every other type of technology, like because I know the engines get like upgrades and stuff all through the year, but they are essentially from the hybrid era. The engines we've got now are essentially the same spec of engines, aren't they? With no craziness done to them.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
They're
still
the same sort of 6 component.
It's just
V6 hybrid turbos.
incremental upgrades.
Incremental.
Yeah.
I couldn't even say upgrades.
Made a little bit better than the last version.
Than the last version. Every other technology in the world that you just give upgrades to becomes lighter, faster, better, and more importantly, cheaper.
Harder, faster, stronger.
Yeah, but why doesn't Formula One follow this way? Why are engines still expensive? Shouldn't a Formula One engine now, after being like if this spec for so long, be X amount of millions cheaper to produce than the first spec one?
I think they are cheaper to produce. It's just that the manufacturers still sell them at the overinflated prices to make up for the amount of
R&D
that went into them.
Yep, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but yeah, I just think it's crazy. They're ripping the teams off.
Yeah,
and they're stifling the sport with the prices of these engines.
this is why you get a case of Ferrari definitely at the moment dictating one of the seats in Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a seat and we'll reduce the prices of your engines. Were Mercedes doing that with Force India when they put Ocon in the car?
Yeah, I think they backed themselves into an awful corner because nobody watches Formula One and goes, "Oh, isn't it good the like what they're trying to do to help reduce emissions?" Nobody watches Formula One and is impressed by the fact they've gone a bit green. In the same way as nobody watches IndyCar and goes, "Oh, isn't it terrible that they don't care about the carbon footprint?" Formula One is less road relevant now than it has ever been before. Because
I disagree.
You've got World Endurance. You've got World Endurance with the supercar.
It's the technology
class
that trickles down. They don't put the technology into Formula One cars to then go, "Ooh, let's put this in this Formula One car because then we can put it in our road car in 10 years' time." It just so happens that the technologies that were put onto Formula One cars over the years eventually trickle down to make your road cars safer.
But Formula One isn't the road relevant formula anymore. Formula E and what will probably be the supercar class in WEC, they are the road relevant championships.
I'd argue as well with the special rules for Toyota with the hybrid in LMP1.
Yeah.
So how fucking fast a Prius is going to be in 10 years?
But I think this is the problem Formula One's got, because they can't go back now because of all the money that's been put into development and because it would be a PR nightmare for them to do it. But they shouldn't have done it in the first place. It makes no sense worrying about fuel consumption on a Formula One weekend from Friday to Sunday when the teams are flown and driven around the world.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, that then goes towards Gilles de Ferran's E series, isn't it? Where the off-road series, where they're all being transported around the world on a solar-powered ship.
Yeah.
Have you not heard about this?
I've not come across this one. This is.
No. Is it E Extreme or something? It's called something
I'm gonna
like
look
that.
this up
Absolute
later.
dream.
Yeah, there's like 9 rounds or something
Good
on
Lord.
different continents.
Wow.
It's they're all like souped up, like jacked up Paris Dakar style cars, but they're all electric and they're all getting transported around the world on a solar powered ship.
This
sounds
like
fascinating.
a fucking terrible premise for a Saturday morning Hanna-Barbera cartoon series that gets dropped after the first 9 episodes.
It sounds like how racing happened in Hunger Games.
It sounds like something stoned Elon Musk would come out with.
That's true. There you go. Sean wins.
Right, silly season. We'll talk about it a bit now, but this week we are all going to put down what we think our predictions for what the 2020 grid will look like.
Yeah.
And we'll put an article together about how it'll go. But some initial thoughts from the 4 of us that are here now. Chris, you've written down Gasly, Bottas, and others. We'll start with Gasly. We will not see him in a Red Bull.
No,
Correct.
absolutely not.
I don't think he's out of Formula One. I think he's probably back in a Toro Rosso, but I don't know who they might put in a Red Bull to replace him initially. I think as I said earlier, I think just as a marker, because there's no reference point, I think they'll put Kvyat in the Red Bull and Gasly back in a Toro Rosso for maybe Singapore, Japan, and then for US back, they'll switch them back again.
They'll Kvyat Gasly.
Yeah, essentially. But it won't be a full term Kvyatting. They'll just be like, look, just for a couple of races, so we got a marker, so we know where Alex Albon is.
Yeah.
We're just going to put you in that car just to see what's going on. Okay, but that means we've got to put Danny in the big boy car next to Max. All right, that's what they'll say to Pierre Gasly. But really, it's a marker.
It's a demotion.
Yeah.
Don't forget, like we found out the other week, that the Red Bull drivers have actually got no say what car they drive because they're not employed by the teams.
Yeah,
they are
Red
employed by Dietrich Mateschitz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a possibility for the second half of the season that you could see just for a couple of races, just so that the swap seats, just so that the team themselves have got a marker, and then we'll really see just how poor or not poor.
Right. This is what I think could well happen. There's a lot of variables and ifs in here. If Mercedes get rid of Bottas and take Ocon, then I think we will see Gasly going to Renault.
Possibly.
Because he's French.
Well, it depends how much Red Bull want to keep hold of him.
I think there's a damn good chance that Red Bull, the organisation, will let Gasly go completely. They weren't afraid to let Kvyat go.
They weren't, but they've got less drivers now.
There's also, I think Kvyat will be in the Red Bull next year.
I think there's another big problem as well for Red Bull.
And I think Albon will stay in the Toro Rosso, and he will be alongside either, I can't remember the Jenson Button's
teammate.
GT partner, either him or Yuri Vips.
Yuri Vips.
I think they
Was it
might.
Yamamoto?
Maybe.
Yamamoto?
No, Yamamoto is the boss of the team that
Right.
they drive for. Yuri Vips, I reckon, will take F3 because he's not doing too bad. And I think Red Bull will promote him from F3 and put him in the Toro Rosso.
Right.
I think we could be seeing an Estonian on the grid.
I think Red Bull are in have got more trouble than that because, especially after this race, I think Max Verstappen is going to move to Mercedes. Because you think about it, right? If he moves to Mercedes, he is guaranteed to fight for a world championship next year. Absolutely, hands down guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
There is no guaranteeing that Red Bull, because Red Bull have been here now for a while. They've been on this sniffing around top 3 teams for a bit. Now they're second at the moment because Ferrari have dropped back. I think there's more chance of Ferrari next year competing for world championships than there is of Red Bull, because Red Bull don't seem at the moment to be able to make that push forward into to consistently challenge. And it always starts at the beginning of the season. You think of every the last 3 years, Red Bull have been dog at the start of the season. You can't do a world championship like that.
No.
The difference is they're going to have a year of experience with the
but
Honda
But
engine.
do you take that gamble if you're Max Verstappen? If you stay with Red Bull, it's a gamble. If you go to Mercedes, you are nailed on to fight for a championship.
Unless you're Max Verstappen and you go to Mercedes saying, I'm going to stay out my last year at Red Bull next year till my contract's up. If you want me, I'm yours in 2021.
But why would you do that when you can guarantee yourself a chance of a winning car that can win a championship next year? It doesn't make sense to stay at Red Bull.
I don't think he'll have much say because apparently
No Formula One team has ever kept a driver that wanted to go.
apparently his release clause Red Bull take up the option if he's in the top 3.
Vettel left his contract early, and we were only saying last week that with Red Bull saying that they wanted 5 wins from Verstappen this year suggests that his get out clause is a lot fucking higher than we think it is. And if it is a win one where he has to win somewhere in the region of 5 races, he's not going to do that this year.
Allegedly, Red Bull's "we're going to keep you" clause was that he was in the top 3 in the championship at the summer break, and he's 3rd.
Yeah, but that's disappeared again. People have been talking about it as a win clause now. It was Ted Kravitz saying it. Now, I
That's
think,
his release clause, though.
but regardless of the release clause, if he turns around and says he wants out of the team, I don't think Red Bull will keep a driver. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Damon Hill said it once, that if someone wants out of a Formula One contract, they can get out of the contract because it's simply too dangerous to keep a driver in a team he doesn't want to be in.
So you're saying that Verstappen's going to... So Bottas has lost his seat and Verstappen's filling it.
Yep.
I think Bottas has lost his seat and Daniel Ricciardo is filling it.
You think Daniel Ricciardo's going to Mercedes?
Yeah.
I think that'd be great for Ricciardo, but I can't... If there is the slightest chance that Verstappen can get to Mercedes, I just don't see why you wouldn't do it. There's a reason why at the beginning of this weekend and through the weekend, Max Verstappen turned around and said there's other drivers on the circuit that could do what Lewis Hamilton was doing if they had a Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton caught 20 seconds up to Max Verstappen and overtook and won a race. He even said after the race that Mercedes showed just the margin they've got on the rest of the teams.
Yeah.
So it's not the fact that I'm sure Red Bull are going to improve next year, but they've got to improve to match Mercedes. Then they've got to improve
To
on
beat.
on whatever Mercedes improve on. It's just not going to happen. They're too far behind to suddenly be championship contenders next year.
Yeah, and
Max and his dad are far too clever for that, and I'm sure Jos Verstappen will be saying to Max, whenever you have the chance of getting into a championship-winning car, we need to do it.
unless Red Bull have the jump on the regulations, which is why Horner has kicked up a fuss about 2021.
But you're gambling again. You're still gambling on what's going to happen. Whereas you are, like I keep saying, you're guaranteed to be able to fight for a championship next year in a Mercedes.
They might think it's a guarantee if they've got a jump on the regulations that nobody else has got yet.
Yeah, but that's fine. But it's a gamble, though, isn't it?
It is, but
I think it's all a gamble, though.
Nicky
isn't it?
Lauda was fairly confident, if you remember, when he tapped up Lewis Hamilton about going to Mercedes and said, look, we know what's happening with the rule change in 2014. We're pretty confident we're going to be the guys to beat. So if you want to come and join us, now would be a good time to come and win some world championships.
I would also
So
argue...
he did 1 year of pain at Mercedes where he only won one race. And then...
Oh, must have been hell for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd also argue that this year has been a year where there's been an aero revamp and Red Bull haven't built the best chassis.
No, I don't think it's the worst, though. It's just...
No, it's not the worst, but when you think of Adrian Newey and any aero shake-ups, and it hasn't happened.
No.
He's been busy fannying about with his Aston Martin Valkyrie, hasn't he? I wonder if that's sort of taken the eye off the ball a little there.
I also think Max Verstappen would... he probably thinks, whether he can or not, that he can beat Lewis Hamilton. So I think it would be something he'd want to do.
Maybe.
I think he would want to beat Lewis Hamilton.
No, I think it'd be something
In
he'd
the
want to
same
do
car.
in the same car.
In the same car, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that after the Rosberg Hamilton thing where they were so close fighting for championships, I think Toto Wolff quite likes it where there's a driver who's not quite up there, but one who's able to
Hasn't Toto already said if
it's between Bottas and Ocon?
No, he said that, but 2 races ago he said if Max Verstappen is available, there is a seat for him at Mercedes.
He also said that about Stoffel Van Dorn and put him in Formula E.
Well, he said he said if it was his driver, he would find a seat for him, didn't he? But then he went to McLaren anyway.
But he also said his decision now is between Bottas and Ocon for next year. Whether that
people say a lot of things.
Yeah, whether that's throwing sort of everyone off the scent, I don't know, but I think he's being fairly...
Don't forget, this will be a negotiating thing as well. You know, it's all these things that are being said about drivers will be people negotiating for better contracts. So if Max Verstappen is negotiating with Mercedes right now, then Toto Wolff is gonna start turning around and bigging up Ocon.
Yeah, it's all sort of posturing and mind games and trying to convince people they're not worth as much. And
you know, I mean,
because if Toto does start bigging Ocon up, we might all be sitting here thinking, well, looks like Ocon's going to get the seat then, and that might just be so that they get the better deal for releasing him from his contract to go to Renault or someone else like that. Do you know what I mean?
All of a sudden, Renault paid a 12 million transfer fee for Ocon and Toto's laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah,
I still think Ocon's a massive gamble for Mercedes.
I think he is as well.
I don't like people keep having a go at me on Twitter for saying this, but I don't really care.
Well, no,
he wasn't a great driver. I think he was on par with Perez. People keep pointing out the fact he beat him more often than not, which I wasn't aware of. But I think the fact that I wasn't aware of it means he wasn't miles down the road.
There were a few times he beat him by like driving him into a wall.
The side of him. I think that more. Didn't he cost Max Verstappen the win at Brazil
by driving into
the side of him when he was being lapped?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he been lapped,
tried
but
to unlap himself.
He pitted, and when he came out of the pits, he had been lapped, but because he was on fresher tyres, was faster than Max, so caught him, tried to unlap himself and hit him.
he's got a reputation of being massively disruptive within teams.
not just
Ricardo
that.
said something odd about him as well, didn't he? Like, I just don't like that kid's face or something like
Yeah.
that, which is coming from
Yeah.
Ricardo.
It's not just that as well.
Could be tricky if they're in the same team next year.
Well,
It's
you
what-
don't have to look at his face when his helmet's on,
Yes.
do you?
It's what Toto was saying as well about the whole driver situation at Mercedes. He said the pressure is big because you have to come into a championship winning car, a car that's able to win races and win championships, and you're expected to win races and
Yep.
win championships. You're not expected to learn whilst you're in the team. You're expected to know and get going straight away. Ocon's not that driver.
This is why.
But for me, Bottas isn't at the moment either.
No, I don't think Bottas will be in the car, but this is why I think whoever gets that Mercedes drive will be somebody that can walk into the team and win races.
Well, which is why I think it'd be Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh yeah, that's a perfectly good idea. I just think that they're gonna want. I feel sorry for George Russell if they do get Max Verstappen, but I think Lewis Hamilton is if he's not quite in the twilight of his career, he's approaching like towards the end of his career.
You're putting a lamp on at least.
Yeah, he's 34, isn't he? He's nearly 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they need to be looking somewhere too for who's next. Like, who are we going to have to win championships?
And I think it's going to be George. But what they might do is sign Bottas on a short term, another 1 year deal with the view to bringing Russell in as soon as that year is over. This time next
year, I think Mercedes are lucky this year. I think Mercedes are lucky that Ferrari have tripped over themselves. And if this is like a rebuilding year for Ferrari to essentially make all the mistakes to get themselves in a position to win next year, Mercedes have to treat next year like they're going to have a stiffer competition than they have.
Yeah.
And they can't do that with Valtteri Bottas in the car. But if you get Max Verstappen, they go into next season with arguably the best Formula One driver of all time. People are going to shout at me for that. And possibly...
Well, I don't know. We're in the top 70 in Spotify podcasts in Holland, so you might not get shouted at too loud.
And possibly like the future of Formula One. If you had a team with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in, that is hands down the best team that you can make out of the grid.
Yeah,
you cannot make a better team.
No,
and I don't think Mercedes will pass that up, and I don't think Max Verstappen will pass up fighting for a championship. Look at the pole. He just got his first pole. Look how fast Max Verstappen is. Like, you'd have expected him to have a pole before a win, but that's where Red Bull are. They're not constant challengers.
No.
And how often do we keep saying that you can't without... we still don't know what... Like, Honda's got better, but what if they go backwards? What if they make another mistake? What if they fall out with somebody?
Mercedes could quite easily do the same thing. Could have Button syndrome, move from one team to another, and then all of a sudden they go backwards.
You could do, but I just think Mercedes have got such an infrastructure in that they are going to be around for a long time. Like, because maybe not as dominant as they are, but even when the 2021 rules shake up, I still think Mercedes are going to be like one of the teams that can win that championship.
Yeah. I think Ocon will end up in the Renault alongside. I don't know who else is going to end up in that Renault, to be perfectly honest with you.
I mean, if Renault, if Ricciardo's going to move to Mercedes, would Mercedes offer Bottas as part of the deal?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think if you're Renault, if you lose Ricciardo, you keep Hülkenberg.
I think Hülkenberg's probably already gone.
I think the decision's been made on Hülkenberg, and I think he's out. I think next year's Haas lineup is going to be Hülkenberg and possibly Wehrlein.
Maybe Wehrlein's a good call.
I mean, Ted Kravitz was talking about Wehrlein being
the
favourite for the Haas seat that is probably going to come up.
No, I think Wehrlein will take Giovinazzi's seat. I think Giovinazzi might go to Haas, and Wehrlein will take Sauber Alpha seat.
Wehrlein's had previous with that team.
Already knows the team, but was on loan from Mercedes, so couldn't get too involved.
Yeah, Wehrlein's Ferrari driver.
He is now, yeah.
I think you're probably right, because Ferrari don't appear to be interested in sticking Ferrari people in Haas.
So Haas will just sign up Giovinazzi, who's done a few FP1s for them in the past.
Now Alpha's their Haas are purely a customer.
I think they did say last year that they had offered Giovinazzi to Haas for 2018, and Gunther Steiner was like, "Nah, not really fussed."
Yeah.
So I think they
I
could be offered a Ferrari driver, but I don't think there's any obligation on them to take it.
But no, the only guaranteed third Ferrari seat is in the Alpha.
Yeah.
And it's not Kimi.
No.
Of course it's not. No.
I still don't think that it's a ridiculous idea to see Kimi go back to Ferrari either if Sebastian decides to hang it up.
That's the thing. That's a bit of a wild card because you just can't tell what his mind state is. I think we're all agreed now. We're not going to see Alonso back.
I don't know. I again, if
don't think so.
I could see him go back to Ferrari. I can see it. Ferrari needs someone. They need someone that can win.
This is the problem.
Championship.
Ferrari keep hanging their hopes on people all the time. Let's hang our hopes on Michael Schumacher. Yay, he brought us all these championships. Schumacher's gone. Let's hang them on Raikkonen. Yay, he won us a championship.
Yeah,
Raikkonen's now rubbish.
Totally
for some
agree
reason.
with you.
Let's hang our hopes on Alonso. Nope, that didn't work. Let's hang our hopes on Vettel. Nope, that's not working. Let's hang our hopes on Charles Leclerc. Nope, that's not working.
What I'd argue there is that out of all those drivers that went to Ferrari, Alonso never had a car capable of winning a world championship.
I think he did.
He fought for one. He did fight for one. No, but I think he did what that car shouldn't have done. And I think he carried Ferrari on his back while he was in that team. They wouldn't have had a win when he was in that team. If there was another driver in that team, they wouldn't have had wins.
Maybe.
I wonder how deep that goes. See, it would be interesting to know what Binotto's relationship was with Fernando Alonso. If he was one of Team Alonso within Ferrari, then I think there's a massive chance of him coming back to Ferrari.
Yeah, if he was an Alonso man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now he's chief of Ferrari. And Alonso's maybe thinking, I could go back there, you know.
Kind of relies on Vettel packing it in because I think if Vettel isn't driving a Ferrari next year, he won't be driving.
I think it depends what the rest of the season as well, because what do you do with him? Like, if he's just like mid grid?
Did anyone see the Channel 4 statistics pre-German 21 races before the German Grand Prix 2018, where Vettel made that mistake?
Yeah.
21 races before the German Grand Prix 2018, Hamilton won 9 races and Vettel won 6. The 21 races since Germany 2018, Hamilton won 15 races, Vettel won 1.
So do you...
Thank you, Sean. I'm sure if that was on Channel,
I imagine that's where they might have bought it from.
That will be one of Sean.
That would have been
Shall we
get Sean back on the show at some point?
Yes, absolutely. But just thinking about it, like, do we not think that if I'm right and Max is going to go to Mercedes, it's not out of the question for Red Bull to take Vettel back?
No, very true.
It's not out of the question, but for the reasons you're outlining as to why Verstappen would go to Mercedes, that's exactly the reason for Vettel to not go back to Red Bull.
Unless he doesn't think he can function in Red Bull, in Ferrari. There's something is not working for Vettel in Ferrari.
Something's not working for Vettel since Ricciardo beat him in 2014.
Yeah, but I still think that's... Half of me wonders whether he threw that season to move to Ferrari. You know, we talk about performance clauses.
Because that wasn't meant to be his last season.
No.
I don't know.
So, you know, he wanted to emulate his hero. That's why he was going to Ferrari. He wanted to emulate Michael Schumacher.
I thought you meant Gerhard Berger.
No. And it's just not happened.
No, it hasn't happened. And Ferrari will look in the future to pin their hopes, as I was saying before, pin their hopes on Mick Schumacher. It's not going to work either.
And think about it as well. Unless Ricciardo goes back to Red Bull, if Max goes,
maybe.
Because think about it, right? Let's say Red Bull do end up with Max is gone. Red Bull end up with a decent car next year that can fight for a world championship. You fight for a world championship with Daniel Kvyat? No. You fighting for a world championship with Gasly? No. You fighting for a world championship with Albon? No.
maybe Albon. He's an unknown quantity.
not
I
yet.
feel like it's too soon for
Yeah.
Albon.
But then again,
Nobody wins a championship in the second season.
Well,
Max has
Not many
made,
people
in
lose
that,
Hamilton.
But in that respect, Max has made the wrong decision. If Red Bull have got a world
No,
championship
but they
winning
still
car.
have to go into the season with someone that they think can win the world
Mhm.
championship.
Yeah, if they don't have Verstappen,
Mhm.
Ricciardo would be an option.
Yeah, you can't pass up the best car on the grid. That's the thing with Max. If you have the opportunity to get the best car, the best drivers find the best cars.
Could be another landing spot for Bottas.
Nah,
Not a Red Bull.
no.
Again, would you go into a season with Bottas thinking you're going to win a world championship? I'd go into a season with Bottas wondering if I'm going to win a race.
He started the season off well, but Bottas 2.0 has
It's
he's
finished.
retrograded, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's
The porridge has run out, the beard's fallen
He's
off.
retro
Yeah.
installed because we've had to backdate because it didn't work.
No, he's now Bottas 7 because Bottas 8 was terrible.
Yeah.
Bottas Vista was Bottas
It
8.
might be Vista now.
Yeah. Where's Bottas XP?
We will go into this in more detail over the next few weeks, but obviously, as I
Because
say,
that's all we're going to have to talk about.
Yep.
yeah, pretty much. But in the meantime, we're all five of us are going to put our plans together for what the grid's going to look like next year, and we'll get that up on the site at the weekend. I'll tweet the link out and stick it on Facebook when it's done. Shall we shunt it?
Let's
Yes.
do it.
At the current time, I can slightly see your screen. There we
Very
go.
fair of you, Sharon.
Yeah,
Well done.
yeah.
Good sporting.
And I can currently see your lungs.
That's not the clue, though, is it? Let's be honest.
I mean,
Who sent this one in?
well, I was. I have issues sometimes with names.
This is a great start.
This is going to be a bigger car crash than Maldonado's career.
I mean, he sounds like an 80s robot sidekick. Ojas?
Possibly.
OJAS.
I'd say Ojas.
Oh, Jess?
Yeah, that's not a name. That's a Korean car make.
If his surname's Sanyong, yes.
Have you got a surname?
Nope.
Okay.
Unless it is actually 575. then he might actually be a robot sidekick.
I'm sure this isn't a bot that has sent this in.
Maybe it's make and model.
I was fabricated in.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
do
you.
feel free to send pronunciation guides with names.
Yeah, please. I'm dyslexic. Phonetics are my friend. So, are we
That's
ready?
only the fourth time we recorded that sentence.
We had to write it down for him first.
and that was the issue. I needed pictures. I was born
Yes.
in 1923.
Good
oh,
Lord.
Fire.
So
Right.
this is something
Flood
that is
has
96.
just checked out of the race.
So it's something that's 96.
something that will be 96 this year, or someone.
Oh, I'm leaning towards Thing, but
My full-time debut in Formula One was in 1978.
Renault.
Murray Walker.
No, he was commentating before 78.
Not full time, he was still working for an
Oh,
advertising agency and came up with the slogan Fresh Cream Cakes, Naughty But Nice.
Oh, okay.
brilliant.
Did he do the advert voiceover?
Sadly not.
Oh, come on.
Before F1, I was active in motocross, rallying, and the
Yeah, Murray Walker.
BTCC.
This sounds
This
suspiciously
sounds
like
Murray
Murray
Walker,
Walker.
right?
Yeah.
I'd like a guess.
I think we're leaning towards Murray Walker.
I guessed. Before F1, I was active in. No, I've
You've
just
done
done
that.
that one. I haven't got glasses on. This is not ideal.
You've managed to Murray Walker this shunt.
Yeah, I've worked with the likes of Jackie Stewart, Jodie Scheckter, Jolyon Palmer, and James Hunt.
One of those does not belong.
Jolyon Palmer.
Jonathan Palmer. No,
I stand by
it. To be fair, I read Palmer and filled the rest in.
Japalma must
Yeah.
be Jolyon.
I'm still saying Murray
Yeah.
Walker.
Yeah.
My last F1 race was the 2001 US Grand Prix.
Yep.
It was won by Mick Hakkinen. My father participated in the Isle of Man TT.
Yes, he did.
We
which
do
is
know this.
Mm.
Why I think he might have chose this one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like another guess.
Still Murray
Still
Walker.
Still Murray Walker.
2 Murray Walker guesses.
Because Murray Walker was here for, was it the 102nd
He's been
year
twice.
in TT, and he did the
Been twice quite
he commentated
recently.
on the classic parade as they were all coming out, and it was really weird hearing Murray Walker commentating on my local radio station, watching all these bikes going past. I was like, this is odd.
I'd also like to point out that confidence like this has never been seen before in a total shunt. we have never essentially forfeited a guest before. Uncharted territory. Crazy scenes.
Worst PlayStation game yet.
I have a
Uncharted's well
star
good.
named after me on the walk of the Walk of Stars in Birmingham.
Fucking hell, that's a thing, is it? Jesus Christ!
Yeah, there's him, Jasper Carrot,
Oh.
and Roy Wood out of I Wish It
Out of
Could
The
Be
Wizard.
Christmas Every Day.
The Walk of Stars.
Walk of Stars.
Was Ozzy
What?
Osbourne?
I was going to
not
say,
on it?
how
Oh,
is
yeah,
Ozzy
he must be.
Osbourne not in there?
I'd like to hope that he turned around and said, no, I've got a proper one. I'd rather not. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm in the one in Wolverhampton.
Very recently, I had a room in the Royal Automobile Club named after me.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
The Murray Walker Lounge.
Yes.
We're down to the Spaffers. I don't think we need them.
Let's have them anyway.
So would you like to give me your last guess?
Murray
I
Walker.
think it's
Murray
Murray
Walker.
Walker.
I'm Murray Walker.
Let's have a look at the Spaffers. What were the
Spaffers.
Spaffers?
In 2007, as a one-off, I returned to replace David Croft, who was on paternity leave for the European Grand Prix on BBC Radio 5 Live. I had no idea that happened.
No.
That was the Spaffer. I am Murray Walker. P.S.
So the Spaffer was the one we probably knew the least
Oh,
about.
he should have put this. He should have put this at the beginning, right down the bottom where I didn't see it. It said, "P.S. My name is pronounced Ojus."
He's even giving you a spaffer for his name.
Thank you, Ojus.
Thank you,
for that,
Ojus.
Ojus. Now we know how to say
Yes.
it properly. How would you go about sending in a total shunt?
You can tweet me at a total shunt, or you can send one in on Instagram at a total shunt.
And if you're one of those old-fashioned people who doesn't do Twitter or Instagram, email it to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, just like
Yeah.
Santerio Nasty did actually today. He sent us one in that I think we're going to use at some point soon because it's a really good one.
Oh.
Oh, also, if you're not following me on Twitter or Instagram, and you're a Must See Audio patron, I have a Must See Audio Discord set up, so you could send them through to me on Discord as well if you're doing that.
Discord, that code, the other code.
Yeah.
And also listen out for the Spotify playlist as well that we put up with all our music on it.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I must make a permanent link to that on the site, actually.
Yeah.
If you want to get in touch with the rest of us, you can get the show at 3legs4wheels or get the rest of us individually
At Sean Cowper.
At Flood21.
at Pablo100, and Dan is at Dan Dankleton. Look for us on Facebook as well, just at 3legs4wheels on Facebook, and same on Instagram.
Yep.
Right, Formula Lee.
Oh.
The Hungarian wet race in a Toro Rosso. It was only a one-week challenge, and to get into the top 20, you needed 134.519, and all these people did so. Marcel Streak was 20th, Matthew Morrison 19th, Adam Smith in 18th.
That'd be Marcel Streak, who was guest predictor.
Guest predictor last week.
Yes.
Santerio Nasty was 17th, Brooks de Geer 16th, Ben Roguska was 15th, Nick Patakis, the slow Greek. He's
Not slow.
Not so slow this time, you were 14th. Kyle Armstrong was 13th, Cathal Toomey was 12th, I was 11th.
Good lord.
How the heck? That's 2 points finishes in a row, which are my first two this season. I am racing pointing this.
Come on, everybody, up your game.
In your case, Chris, buy the game.
No.
Top 10, Chris Shales. 9th was Mike Camping. 8th was Jimmy Hammerling. 7th, Pete Bull. 6th, Alberto Roldan. 5th was Julian McMahon Hyde. 4th was Eric Farnand. Top 3, with a time of 132.745. In 3rd place was Chris Olby.
Sometimes winner, Chris
Sometimes
Olby.
winner. Second place with a time of 132.526 was also sometimes winner, Alessandro Popolani.
Also Formula One driver's name.
Definitely. And winning this week with 131.986, thrashing everyone.
Good lord.
Pedo.
Yeah, Nathan Mazzolo.
Well done, Nathan.
Well done, Nathan. Right, we need a summer break race. So we're going to go to the classic cars this time. And it's going to be the 2010 McLaren. And it's going to be in the dry. And it's going to be in Baku.
Crazy. Because the 2010 McLaren will not have done Baku before.
Exactly.
That's
So,
wild.
Let's see how good that 2010 McLaren was in Azerbaijan.
Or will be.
Or will be. It's a 2-week challenge, so you've got until 7 o'clock UK time on Monday the 19th, because then that gives us 2 weeks before Belgium.
Yep.
Right, we'll be back next week with... I haven't got a bloody clue.
No,
We'll
more
find
silly
something.
season.
Wild
silly season.
speculation again.
Wild speculation, silly season, some news, all the factories are on shutdown,
Max confirmed for Mercedes.
that kind of thing. Scarbs, if you're listening, you're free next Monday.
What about Sean? Sean must be free sometime.
He was saying he was moving house last week. So I
That's a
think
good point.
He's settling in.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, Sean, hope the house move went well, because apparently he was driving across half of the USA,
Yes.
which, don't envy that one. We'll see you next week with, I'm sure there'll be Summit.
Something.
Laters.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.